This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Patterson and Michael Remus.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you had a great weekend. It is not just any game day, but a huge game day tonight for the Winnipeg Jets as they take on the St. Louis Blues. 6:30 start, Amazon Prime game down at Canada Life Center. The Blues on an absolute heater, 12 in a row, a 19-2-3 in their last 24 games. And we're not going to get that Hellebuck-Binnington goaltending matchup, though, that we were kind of anticipating. Of course, Joel Hofer gets a chance to start in his hometown of Winnipeg against the Winnipeg Jets tonight. So Hofer and Hellebuck is going to be the matchup. We'll get to that. And, of course, a pretty wild weekend. Disappointing game for the Jets. I mean, no matter how you slice it on Saturday night, huge opportunity gifted to the Jets by the great Sidney Crosby with his hat trick performance, 4 points in a comeback win over the Dallas Stars on the road on Saturday afternoon. But the Jets, 2 brutal periods to get things going, and wasn't enough. They were down 3-0, weren't able to come back into the game. And, you know, that you hope that won't be one they really regret at the end of the season, but it certainly could be. That being said, you know that I rarely have nice things to say about the Minnesota Wild. Was not too upset with them winning that game in overtime, albeit. They did have a 2-1 lead in the third period. But it shapes up for a pretty wild final week and a half of the season, or really 2 weeks, I guess. Jets with 5 games remaining, Dallas with 5 games remaining, Jets 3 points up in the Central Division with that head-to-head matchup Thursday night in Dallas looming very, very big. Today on the program, we're really going to be all about this hockey game tonight. We got Mike McIntyre jumping on at the bottom of the hour with the latest from Winnipeg Jets morning skate. We'll get into how the lineup's looking and some optimistic news on the injury front. Thomas Hickey with Amazon, former NHLer, is going to jump on. We'll talk more about Jets and Blues and everything else going on in and around the National Hockey League. And then later on, closer to the end of the program, Alex Ferrario in St. Louis will jump on and fill us in on this incredible streak, a 2019-esque streak that the Blues have been on to get back into the playoffs as we look ahead to the Stanley Cup tournament in a couple of weeks from now. Great to have you all with us. Shout out to all you podcast listeners, and welcome to everybody with us in the chat today, joining us live on YouTube. And, of course, a huge thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Our friends at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Prairie Toyota Dealers, Rollies Transfer, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, St. Vital Dental Center, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, F Apparel, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Breezy Bend Country Club. We'll get to fan feedback for fansfirst.ca. And, of course, we'll get to a why not question of the day for our friends at Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Michael Remus, what's going on? How are your travels?
Yeah, it's good to be back. Good to be back. I hadn't gone skiing for like 15 years, and my legs
How's the groin?
Aren't what they used to be. Groin's okay. It's more of the quads burning. Could barely move by the end. Had to go in the hot tub, take a nap, but I'm ready to be back here for the final stretch, final 5 games of the regular season. Exciting stuff here with the Jets, still with the slight lead over Dallas, but the very, very important game on Thursday. We'll wait and see. Dallas is playing tomorrow as well, so we'll see what the standings implications are as we count down to that game.
Who do the Stars have tomorrow?
I got to double check that. I'm not sure. It's probably some team That's like at the bottom of the standings. Isn't that how it usually is? No, it's Vancouver that they're hosting tomorrow night. So yes, what a great schedule for Dallas. Nashville, Pittsburgh, who they lost to, Minnesota. They're a playoff team. Vancouver is not. So they're hosting Vancouver tomorrow, and then Winnipeg Thursday.
Well, listen, as we've seen over the course of this weekend, just because teams are ahead of others in the standings does not necessarily mean that they're going to win. And, we've kind of been saying that about Dallas for the better part of the last few weeks when they've been outshot by teams and probably not deserved to win hockey games, but have been doing it. And obviously they ended up with only one of a possible 4 points on the weekend. So maybe they sort of got what they deserved. The Jets got what they deserved on Saturday night, though, Remus, and that was really disappointing. I mean, I think I can speak for most Jet fans that when that game finished close to 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoon before the 6 o'clock puck drop of the Jets in Utah, you thought that, okay, this was the opening that the Winnipeg Jets needed. The door was open, and they did not walk through it. In fact, they were rebuffed for at least the first two periods. I mean, credit on Utah. They were ready to go. They were fired up, and the Jets just didn't have it early on. And they were chasing the game. They were behind the puck. And if Connor Hellebuck wasn't as brilliant as he was in the first period, that one could have been out of hand early. Now, listen, they did get it together and played a much better third period and really did press. But as we heard from from Mark Scheifele after the game, Cole Perfetti, I mean, these are games that, you can't be late for, if you will. And I certainly don't think the Jets will have that problem tonight, Remus, with the Blues in town, considering what that team has been on and the situation that Winnipeg finds itself in going into these final 5 games.
Yeah, I had to wonder if injuries, started catching up to them on that Saturday game. I mean, that was a huge emotional win against Vegas. Eric Comrie starting goal, and the Jets really took it to Vegas for the majority of the game. And you're on a big high, and Nikolai Ehlers does not play on Saturday. You're already without Gabriel Velarde and Neil Pionk. I mean, those are some pretty big names to be out of the lineup. I'm not, saying that's an excuse, but as we've seen them win, with players out of the lineup. But they're certainly missing some of that firepower for sure. And as far as tonight, Nikolai Ehlers is a game time decision. Mike McIntyre expects him to play. And for the Jets, the good news for them is they're at home, and they are one of the best teams in the league at home this year. 28-6-4 points in 11 of their last 12s. Only 3 regulation losses at home in the last 26 games. So they've been very solid. Connor Hellebuck, very solid at home in 15 of the last 18 home games, 2 or fewer goals allowed. So if the Jets are able to capitalize on their opportunities and, score more than 2 goals, they should be in big position to win. One thing to note about Joel Hofer and Ned Haas, I was like, Joel Hofer, interesting. I remember him having some pretty good games against the Jets in his first start against them. He got a shutout. Career, .907 save percentage, .272 goals against average. However, against the Winnipeg Jets, it goes up to a .931 save percentage and .201 goals against average. So Joel Hofer, just like James Reimer, knows how to elevate his game against the hometown province hustler.
Hey, you know what? There are guys that take advantage of those opportunities. They know they're going to be playing in front of friends and family and come out. But listen, this is not unique. I mean, Hofer's had, and you kind of laid it out, a really strong season. Listen, Binnington has a .902 save percentage. Hofer's .903. The goals against average, I mean, their numbers are basically exactly the same. I mean, it's .267 to .269, .902 to .903. So, I mean, there's not really a drop-off at all. And if you look at Hofer's record, in 30 games, he's 16-7-3. I mean, he's 9 games above 500, where Binnington is 6 games above 500, having played 53. So there has been absolutely no drop-off in goaltending when they don't have Jordan Binnington in it. And like you just said, I mean, bit of a homecoming for a guy that's had some success here and against this team in playing before. They're just going to look to keep doing what they've been doing. I mean, not a lot of there's no suspense when it comes to St. Louis right now. I mean, when you're rolling the way that they're rolling, I mean, you just keep on trying to go out and do the same thing over and over again. And listen, you can maybe say the same thing about the Winnipeg Jets on their wider body of work through 77 games. But another thing I think that we have to be kind of optimistic about, Remus, despite the buzzsaw that St. Louis is the way the Winnipeg Jets have bounced back from underwhelming performances earlier on this season. And I have no doubt that the Jets were disappointed with their performance on Saturday. They'll take Dallas getting only one of a possible two yesterday against Minnesota. And now an opportunity to really make a statement that, they're gunning for number one. They're going to hold on to that spot in the standings. And if they can get 2 points tonight against St. Louis, will open up a 5-point lead over the Dallas Stars before they play that game, and would put them in a situation where no matter what happens, they'll still be in first place come Friday morning after the Winnipeg-Dallas game, then with 3 games remaining on the schedule.
Yeah, you talk about bouncing back. Remember the last time the Jets laid an egg in Utah? They ripped off, 11 game?
11 in a row.
11 in a row, so... I think you've seen the Jets in big games this year when their back's against the wall. Maybe not against the wall, but when it's a high-pressure game like the Dallas game at home. You can say Thursday against Vegas. We just saw, among other games this year, the Jets have delivered their A game. They've had their A game at home all year. And you look at the 3 games against the Blues. I don't even know if these are relevant at all. Like, does a 3-2 win in October, is that even for the Jets even relevant? They lost 4-1. They only played 4 times this year. They lost 4-1 in December at home, and they won in a shootout against St. Louis on February 22nd. And I don't even know if you can take anything away from those games, because we know the Blues, they fired the head coach during the year. They brought in Jim Montgomery and have been on this tremendous heater since the Four Nations break. So I agree. I think we'll see a bounce back. Connor Hellebuyck, when he lets in a couple, he usually bounces back with a solid performance. So the Jets have to keep pace with Dallas, because Dallas seemingly is getting points and winning every game, even though they keep getting outshot. They seem to just keep putting up 2 points. And the Jets, they've had a pretty good run here too. They're 6-4 in their last 10. And again, their home record, excellent. So I expect a good one tonight.
Well, I mean, listen, they're lucky that Dallas didn't keep getting 2 points in their 2 games on the weekend. Otherwise, we'd be talking about a tie at the top of the Central Division.
It's true.
And Dallas got one of a possible 4. The Jets lost, and it's a 3-point cushion with even games played going into the final 5 games of the regular season. For those that are following what the betting line is, the number looks a lot more likely that the Jets will win today than it was before the weekend. Coolbet has the Jets at -500 to win the Central Division. Dallas at +375. And the Hart Trophy, by the way, no Leon Draisaitl again tonight. Draisaitl's at -115. Hellebuyck is at +110. And McKinnon is at 5-1. Listen, we're going to get to the coach in just a minute, but we should mention, Reem, Alex Ovechkin got the job done, scoring yesterday to pass Wayne Gretzky. A big pomp and circumstance. Gretz was there. Gary Bettman was there. Very similar to the ceremony that the league did for Wayne when he passed Gordie Howe, who was in attendance when that happened. I was a little disappointed he didn't go out with the empty net on Friday to ice it with an empty netter and a hat trick on Friday. But the chase for $8.95 is over, and Alex Ovechkin stands alone as the greatest goal scorer in regular season NHL history.
I gotta be honest, I was surprised when he said he didn't want to do it on an empty net. I think, normally I'd be like, yeah, do it on a goalie, but it was for the hat trick. I agree. It was at home. How awesome would that have been if he would have scored the empty net in front of the home crowd? Watching on TV, it was electric in Washington in that game against Chicago. Every time he was on the ice, you're watching him, and he hadn't really felt that, as far as someone chasing a record in hockey for a long time. Gretzky held it for 30 years, the all-time goal-scoring mark. You never thought anyone would ever break it, and Alex Ovechkin, what a legendary career he's had. He had the flop on the ice celebration reminded me of a Stanley Cup celebration when he was flopping around in the fountain in Washington and at the Nationals game. I mean, this guy's such a legend. We're so lucky to be able to watch him and Sidney Crosby the last couple of years. I mean, Crosby broke Gretzky's record for consecutive point per game seasons at 20. Like, I don't know if either of these are ever going to get broken again, but it was a very well done ceremony, and very cool to have Gretzky there rocking the Gordie Howe pin as well. Well done by the NHL. I mean, huge celebration to stopping the game, but I think it's well deserved. And now, like, every goal is a new record. So congratulations to him. I did enjoy Gretzky in the locker room noted that he was gifted a Rolls Royce when he broke the record, and was wondering if the Capitals owner would give Ovechkin one. And Gary Bettman was in attendance, but there's all these CBA caps. That's cap circumvention. I don't think you can do that anymore. And Gary Bettman's like, whoa, we'll talk about this after. So what a ceremony. Awesome moment. And, great celebration. Congrats to them. And, hey, the Caps are, they're first two. So this isn't like last year where they were limping into the playoffs and getting swept. So we'll see how this goes for the rest of their season. Well,
I mean, this is the thing. If he'd done it on Friday in a win, hat trick, it would have been truly legendary. It goes down as the lone goal in a 4-1 loss to the New York Islanders yesterday. So not a great one for the Caps. They're 1 point back of the Jets in the race for the President's Trophy right now, 2 up on Dallas at 49, 19, and 9. One other huge bit of news just before we get to Coach Arniel, Remo. Vladdy is a J for life. We had Johnny Genta on last week towards the end of the weekend when you were away, talking about the Jays going into New York, but also where things are going. He got the 1 hour with Mark Shapiro, and the next thing you know, they signed Guerrero. This is big for the Blue Jays, something that had to happen. I don't doubt that the second half of this contract might look pretty ugly. It's a lot to spend on a first baseman. But, man, the Blue Jays needed, and the fans needed, some good news. And I think they needed some clarity as to what the direction of this team was. And, getting Vladdy done for 14 years, I think, is a huge start moving forward for the on-field product, as great of a job as the powers that be have done on the ballpark.
Yeah, 14 years, $500 million, massive amounts of money, but this is a player they drafted. They should have been done years ago when you saw other teams locking up their young stars, and they let it get to this point where he was a year from free agency. So the price gets upped, and you can't have a player like that walk. I think it would lead to some very poor fan reaction from that. And it does say, okay, they have a player like Vlad here who could be a superstar player. You can build around him. Their pitching has been solid, but their hitting, as you've seen, start the season in terms of ability to hit home runs, just hasn't been there. And, maybe he was gripping the bat a bit too tight, has to start the season. He doesn't have any homers to start. And he's like, you know what, maybe I should just take the $500 million guaranteed. And maybe he was feeling the pressure. He's like, how can you turn this down? $500 million. And I think when you saw that they were willing to offer Soto this big money and willing to offer Ohtani, who are outsiders, I mean, you gotta open up the pocketbook for a guy that you drafted, son of Expos great Vlad Guerrero Sr. So I think very exciting for the Blue Jays franchise, and does give some more excitement to fans, as well as I think you're pretty down after they're spending all this money on their roster, Huss, and still finishing at the bottom of the East. They're in a really hard division. Yankees, Orioles, Red Sox, all very good. Rays are always competitive, even if they, don't even have their own stadium right now and don't have the payroll of the other teams. They figure a way to get it done. So I'm very happy for Blue Jays organization and their fans. But now it's time. Okay, now that's one piece. You have to build a playoff team because they don't have any playoff wins in the Shapiro and Atkins era. So, yeah, this is a win for them.
Playoff wins. Make the playoffs first. We got another 152 to go for the Blue Jays, but that plus 14 for Vlad. So that was huge news today. Let's get back to the Jets, though. Mike's going to join us in about 5 minutes. We're hoping to see Nikolai Ehlers back. We'll get to an injury update on Colin Miller for tonight, as well as Kapari and Gabe in a minute. But just wrapping up Saturday, this was a not entirely pleased head coach, Scott Arniel, after Utah and the loss on Saturday night.
Not very good for 2 periods. Utah was a better team, dominated us in all areas, puck battles, turnovers. They got their rush game going. We knew they were going to be good in that department. And they're really good in the first period. Talked about it before the game, and just we weren't ready to go. Dominated in the third, but a buck short and a day late.
I was going to say, not a lot of times when you're second in races and battles with your group. Is that
it is frustrating because that's usually us dominating teams, and they were the better team. They come out, they got to their game plan fast, and we just weren't good enough.
All right, so we move on from Saturday to a new day tonight. St. Louis Blues, huge one for the Jets, 6:30 p.m. down at Canada Life Center. Ehlers wasn't able to go. Big night for the Sign Lars movement. Really saw how much he's missed in the Jets lineup. Here's Arniel on an Ehlers and Pionk injury update.
Category would Nikolai Ehlers
Game
fall?
time.
Okay.
Game time. He just obviously the comfort level with that. Got out there and got to skate, which was great. So we'll just see how he is after this afternoon and take it from there.
And Neil Pionk, with a couple of practices before Dallas Thursday, is he starting to get on that periphery?
He's real close, yeah. It's all about conditioning now for him.
All right, so that's good news for Neil Pionk, potentially back in time for the Dallas game. And Ehlers' game time decision was a full participant in the morning skate. So we'll hope to see him out there tonight. Here's a further injury update. Colin Miller wasn't out for the skate today. What's up with Rasmus Kapari? And what about Gabe Vilardi?
Colin Miller was not on the...
Yeah, he's sick. We'll see.
He's sick, okay.
Yeah.
So would he be game time as well, or unlikely?
Yeah, we'll go game time.
Okay. And then just because you guys were on the road last week, so we maybe haven't asked in the last week or so, but is there anything new on Rasmus? He's still in protocol?
He skated today.
Okay.
He was full go today. Full condition skate before we went out on the ice.
Right.
First one.
And then is Gabe still a ways away from...
Gabe's around. We're getting close to see about him going on the ice. He's up and running here a little bit more, and we'll just go follow along with him, kind of see where he's at.
All right, so I will take that as some positive news on Gabe Vilardi. Close to getting back on the ice. That is very, very good news for Winnipeg. One other note, and we'll get into this with Mike, but Kieran Walton, after that brilliant season in the OHL, has signed his ELC with the Winnipeg Jets. He's going to report on an amateur basis for the Moose for the remainder of the season. Back to the coach. I know I was scoreboard watching these Dallas games on the weekend. Arnie was asked about how much time they've been spent paying attention to what Dallas and the other teams around them are doing.
In terms of scoreboard watching, do you guys get a bump like Saturday or yesterday afternoon?
Didn't work in Utah. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So it's all the more reason to take care of our own business. It really is. And we're facing an opponent. Saw the first game out of the break that has been on an absolute tear. So if you're looking ahead or behind or whatever, if you're not focused on the St. Louis Blues, you're going to be in trouble.
All right. So already saying what every Jet fan said after the game. They didn't get a bump from the Dallas loss on Saturday. Here's a little bit more from the coach on the visiting Blues, who've been the best team in the NHL over the past month or two.
It's throughout that lineup. They're getting scoring from all their units. They're playing extremely hard. They defend really well. They're feeling it, and I know they didn't make many changes for the trading deadline, and you know what, they've had a major push on here, and obviously one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league since that point. So we'll have the work cut out for us. So it'll be another big Central Division matchup. Their detail and their structure is outstanding. Obviously their goaltender has been really, really good. Both goaltenders have been really good. Whatever they did, obviously we'll look at it, and we have looked at it a little bit. Not a whole lot of major things that have really changed, but they're getting their 4 lines have been really, really good. Obviously, they've added Fowler, so their team is right now feeling it, and they're playing extremely well.
All right, so there's the coach on the Blues. Here's just one more from the coach. And listen, I think a lot of people have been saying it sort of feels like 2019 in St. Louis right now. Here's Arnie on if he sees any similarities in these Blues to the one that went on that incredible run all the way to the Cup championship in 2019.
You know what? Monty's a hell of a coach. Whatever they decide to do, what they did, and they're just. I think that they're still trying to find their way prior to the Four Nations, and ever since then they've really found their game, and their best players are their best players. Their role players have really bought into what they need to do, and they're feeling it right now. We know what it's like when you get on those roles like that. You feel good about coming to the rink and playing games, and that's what they're doing. So we're really hoping to wreck their party tonight.
All right, so there's the coach. Mike McIntyre is going to jump on in just a couple minutes, and we will dive into tonight's game and everything coming out of the weekend for the Winnipeg Jets, and of course look ahead to Thursday as well. But first things first, a big one tonight against the Blues. Folks, if you got a move plan coming up in spring and summer, hit up our friends at Rolly's Transfer. Family owned and operated for over 60 years and the most trusted name in moving services. You might be able to even get it done in the WST truck if you're lucky. If you head on over to Rollies.com, you'll see in the top right corner you can request an estimate. What you're going to want to do is first off put in the promo code WST, because WSTers get a special discount on moving services and moving supplies from our partners at Rollies, and then let them know when and where you're moving and when and what needs to be moved, and they'll come back with a great quote to give you the white glove treatment for all your belongings on your way to your next destination. Helping Manitobans now into their 7th decade. Rollies Transfer, the most trusted name in moving. Find out more. Request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. Spring is here. And if you got to do some spring cleaning, maybe don't forget about your teeth. If it's been a minute since you've been to the dentist, why don't you head down and see our good friend, Dr. Terry, and his great staff at the St. Vital Dental Center, who's been serving generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for years. We've got a beautiful new facility, 167 St. Anne's, with free parking right behind the building. Couldn't be much more convenient than that. And a full array of dental services, from simple things like checkups and cleanings all the way up to dental surgeries and dental implants. You can find out more on everything St. Vital Dental Center can do for you. Book an appointment for you and your family today at stvitaldental.ca. Big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club. We know that there's a lot going on between the countries right now, and when you walk in your local Manitoba liquor marts, a lot of things you might normally see aren't there. The good news is the best of Canadian whiskey still is Canadian Club, the iconic Canadian Club since 1848, available for you. Pop in, support Canadian, and get the best in the biz. Canadian Club 100% rye, Canadian Club Classic, available at your local Manitoba liquor marts today. And hey, I got to shout out Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. I got a couple great messages recently from listeners that went down to get batteries from Donnie, and they said, Huss, you know what? You do not tell lies. The prices at Manitoba Battery are better than I've seen anywhere else. That's right. You can shop local, and you can get the best prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores for all your battery needs. And in addition to the great service you'll receive on Logan Avenue or at their new store down on Dovercourt Drive, you'll also be able to get those batteries delivered to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60, because Manitoba Battery takes care of their customers better than anybody right now. As we mentioned, shop local, save money, and get the best service around. Manitoba Battery, 2 locations to serve you. And shop online today at manitobabattery.ca. All right, Mike's coming up right now as we bring in Mike McIntyre for the latest on the Winnipeg Jets. This segment's a presentation of your Prairie Toyota dealers. I wanted to tell you about a great contest they've got going on right now until April 23rd. Gang, the grand prize includes a signed Scheifele jersey, a signed Connor Hellebuck jersey, and great Winnipeg Sports Talk merch as well. Retail of the grand prize, $960. What you're going to need to do is enter to win. Just go to Prairie Toyota Dealers on Instagram, at Prairie Toyota Dealers, or on Facebook, at Prairie Toyota to enter, or you can click the link in the episode of this description. So it's open to all Manitoba residents as well as Alberta and Saskatchewan. And of course, our Prairie Toyota dealers want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Quality. That means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load, and it's backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. Leads from $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.19% APR with $66.99 down. Hybrid available. Find out more today and visit shoptoyota.ca. All right, Mike McIntyre joins us on the road today. Mike, what's going on? How's the weekend? Dud for the Jets on Saturday night, but for the first time in a while, a little bit of help on the out-of-town scoreboard.
Yeah, just 1 out of 4 points for the Dallas Stars. That's a pretty tidy piece of business for the Jets. We were starting to wonder if the Stars might ever lose again. So get a regulation loss and then an OT loss mixed in. That was certainly a positive development for the Jets. Now it's on the Jets to try and take care of business. They didn't do it Saturday night. Scott Arniel almost not making light of it, but he was asked today, if the Jets sort of see that and use the opportunity. He's like, well, we didn't do it in Utah. They know they have another opportunity tonight to put a little more distance between themselves and the Stars. And I would think the Jets, given how they played Saturday night, are going to come out with a little more focus, a little more determination. They're going to have to, Huss. This is not the Utah Hockey Club that they're facing tonight. No offense to Utah, but this is a step up in weight class. Really the hottest team in the NHL, 13 in a row or 12 in a row, 19-2-2. It is actually remarkable what the Blues are doing, shades of 2019 all over again. And you don't have to remind these Jets about the 2019 Blues. They ran into the runaway freight train that was those particular Blues in the playoffs, and maybe they'll see this version in the playoffs as well. But first things first, they'd like to try and take care of them on their own rink tonight. Funny little note here, Huss. This is the fourth time these teams have played each other this year. The road team has won every game. So maybe the home team is due for a favorable outcome.
Well, that reminds me of the 2019 playoff series. That's exactly what happened there too. I mean, with the exception of Game 6, where only one team showed up for the game, unfortunately, in that one, as you will recall. But it was crazy. I mean, the Jets were 0-3 at home. They lost the first two, then went and got back into the series with those 2 road wins in St. Louis. And then the debacle that was the end of Game 5 led to Game 6. But I think, as we all know, this is a very different team today here in Winnipeg than was the 2019 team. Certainly off the ice, it seems to be a far more conducive group moving forward, and one that knows the task at hand right now, Mike. And I mean, you're right. They left 2 on the table. I mean, listen, there's no wins that are guaranteed in the league. I mean, you're playing on the road against a team that's been right in and around the playoff line for most of the season. But it was just the way they played. But I think also, I mean, not to make excuses, that was a pretty, diminished lineup, and no bigger loss than Nikolai Ehlers. I mean, big night for the Sign Lars movement when you look at the way this team looks without Nikolai Ehlers. And, I was reading, following you this morning. By all accounts, Nick was out there this morning looking pretty good, and that'll be a big boost to get him back in the lineup as is expected this evening.
Yeah, I mean, we maybe forget that this Jets team is already without Gabe Vilardi. They're without Neil Pionk. And then you throw Nikolai Ehlers into the mix. Like, that's 2 of your top 6 forwards and 1 of your top 4 defensemen. So that's putting some extra emphasis on the rest of your players, and they didn't meet the challenge on Saturday night. But yeah, Ehlers was flying around the ice today. I know Scott Arniel said game time decision. I fully expect he's in the lineup tonight. He took all the line rushes, and Huss, like, there was actually quite a bit of encouraging injury news, I thought, from the Jets today, not just on Ehlers, that he's probably good to go tonight, that Neil Pionk, who was also a full participant and looked really good in the morning skate, don't expect Neil Pionk to play tonight. I do expect, though, that Neil Pionk will probably be back on Thursday for that big matchup in Dallas. And then on a couple of the other injured guys, Rasmus Gapari, who last we heard was back in concussion protocol. Well, he did a conditioning skate on his own today. That would be a good sign that he's working towards a return. Whether he would get back into the lineup right away remains to be seen. But the big one to me was Gabe Vilardi, and certainly a more positive tone from Scott Arniel than what we heard maybe a week or 10 days ago, where at the time Scott Arniel said that he was a ways away from even getting kind of into the weight room. And he said, at the time we're just focused on letting him get better. Well, today Scott Arniel was a lot more optimistic, and he said, in fact, that he's around the team now, which indicates to me that he's at least working out in the weight room, and that he's getting close to a return to the ice. Now, that doesn't mean a return to game action right away, but the quicker he gets back on the ice, the quicker the Jets potentially get him back into the lineup. We saw with Neil Pionk, like, he just started skating about a week ago, and now he's closing in on a return. So certainly that was a positive news day, if you will, when it comes to injuries. I guess the only downer was that Colin Miller looks like he won't be a go tonight. He's sick. He's not hurt. And he stayed away from the team this morning. So Hayden Fleury likely goes in for him. But, you obviously, if you're the Jets, like, you want Vilardi, Pionk, and Ehlers. You want all those guys to be ready for the playoffs. And it looks like, they're going to get them back kind of staggered here. Ehlers tonight. I expect Pionk Thursday. And could we see Gabe Vilardi before the regular season ends a week from Thursday? That might be pushing it. But certainly from everything Scott Arniel said, I wouldn't rule him out that he could potentially be an option for game one of the playoffs. And if you're the Jets, that would just be a tremendous development. Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, considering the early reports and there was a lot of fears that this might be much longer, and that Gabe might not be able to be a part of a playoff roster for the Winnipeg Jets. And any news that he's closer to a return is good stuff for the Winnipeg Jets right now, albeit won't help tonight. You mentioned Miller. Sure would be nice to get Pionk back in the lineup tonight if possible, because if Miller is out, you'll have two of your four right-hand defensemen out of the lineup. And, Luke Schen's going to be playing in Pionk's spot with Sandberg doing some heavy lifting. Considering what the Stanley Fleury pairing looked like the last time those guys were together, with one of those players moving over to their offside, I would suggest Josh Morrissey get ready for a lot of ice time tonight. And I think both of those top two pairs will probably be well in excess of 20 minutes each. Yeah, I mean, the good news for the Jets is they don't play again till Thursday. They could empty the tank, if you will. And you're right. Even interesting, like on the second power play unit, Huss. So without Pionk, of course, Colin Miller has been taking reps. Well, now you don't have Pionk or Miller. I know there's the Villy fans out there that would love to see Villy in the lineup. Well, he's not. And so we were wondering, like, okay, who goes on the second power play unit? I honestly wondered if they might just double shift Josh Morrissey and leave him out for the full 2 minutes. That would probably be asking too much. I mean, it all depends, I guess, if it's a penalty heavy game. We know Josh Morrissey also penalty kills now at times. But so it's Hayden Fleury who actually was taking some reps on the second power play unit today as the sort of defensive quarterback there. And I mean, when you look at what else the Jets have, like, I guess it kind of makes sense. He does have some offensive instincts to him. I honestly wondered if Dylan Samberg might not get a look there. But again, Samberg's a guy, he's playing heavy minutes on the PK. He's probably in for a big, heavy minute night. I don't know that you want to find ways to even add more. So we'll see. I mean, this may be a night where if there's a bunch of power plays, don't be surprised if the number one unit might just stay out a little longer than usual, because the second unit doesn't have the same weaponry with, we saw Colin Miller with that blast the other day. Like, we haven't seen that used a whole lot this year by Colin Miller, but it is a weapon. And, the Jets now without Pionk and Miller for tonight, they're down 2 guys that could fill in on that role.
It's funny you say that, because on Thursday we were saying, oh, watch the PP1 go for like a minute 50.
Yeah.
And they didn't, and they got off, and PP2 came on, and the next thing you knew, they scored. So, yeah. I mean, hey, with any one of these guys that are out, it does create some opportunity. And if Hayden Fleury is the guy on that PP2 unit, you hope that he can make the most of it and help the team get some good chances and maybe make something happen tonight. We'll get back to tonight's game and the big picture and the present right now in a second, Mike. But there was a signing today. Kieran Walton gets an ELC from the Winnipeg Jets. A late pick in last summer's draft that blossomed and had an absolutely monster season this year in the Ontario Hockey League.
He really did. And in fact, the Jets look like they might have some found money in both Kieran Walton and Kevin He, another later round pick, who also lit up the O this week. And it's interesting, both those guys, their junior teams just had their seasons come to an end this weekend. Now, Kevin He had already signed his ELC earlier this year. Kieran Walton, though, I know there was some folks maybe worrying about what it meant that he hadn't signed yet. Well, worry no more. They do have him signed. And he's also signed an amateur trial because his ELC doesn't start till next season. But he has signed an ATO that allows him to join the Manitoba Moose kind of for the last few games here and maybe get a game or two in. And we haven't heard yet if Kevin He is also going to join the Moose. And then it's possible, Huss, like those guys could also join the Jets potentially, as Black Aces or just guys for the playoffs. The Moose obviously are not going to be in the playoffs. And, it's good to get some experience, get those guys around, acclimatize. We could see similar things happen with like Colby Barlow, who's still playing and had a monster first round. Braden Yeager, who's still playing and had a monster first round. I had a chance last week to go out to Verdun and actually see Braden Yeager up close. And my goodness, he was the best player on the ice that night. He stood out big time. And I had a great chat with him before the game. So, yeah, I mean, the present is pretty good for the Winnipeg Jets. The future is looking pretty bright as well with some of the prospects that are in the pool right now.
Well, and just on Walton, he was drafted in the 6th round. I mean, we were there. We had a great chat with him very quickly before everybody got kicked out because they had an event at the Sphere later on in that evening, and it was time to leave. He more than doubled his output this year, Mike. In every category. His draft year, he was 65 games. He had 18 goals, 25 assists for 43 points, and 18 PIMs. This past year, 66 games, 38 goals, 54 assists, 92 points, 43 penalty minutes, and he had 5 points in their 4 playoff games. He's also 6'6", 216. Like, I really do wonder, based on what we've seen this year, if there was a redraft of last year's draft, just how much higher he would go. Or if he wasn't drafted, I mean, once you get down towards the end of the 6th round, there's a potential that you go undrafted. Right. If he was draft eligible this year, just how high he would be. Certainly, I think the Jets have an asset that definitely appreciated in value over the course of this season. And, for a guy often 6th-round picks, I mean, well, Mason Appleton was a 6th-round pick. Yep. I mean, there's a guy that, he was AHL Rookie of the Year. But point being is that Kieran Walton has turned into a pretty nice prospect. And obviously you have to be to earn a contract coming out of the 6th round in your first year out of being drafted.
The other thing about Walton's numbers that really stand out, Huss, is, on their own, they stand out. But if you look at his team and you look at the scoring statistics for his whole team, this is not a guy. Like sometimes in junior, guys can have inflated numbers because, if they're on a line with say 2 other really highly touted prospects, like if you have like a power line and, you're getting a lot of like secondary assists because, like Connor Bedard's line mates in junior would have had monster numbers because they're playing with Connor Bedard. Kieran Walton, not only did he lead his team in scoring, he led his team in scoring by a ton. This was not a guy that was getting cheap points while riding the coattails of other talented prospects. Like there must have been times where it was like Kieran Walton versus the world because it thinned out quite a bit after him when you look at their overall team stats. So to me, a 92-point season would be impressive no matter what. But I think there's even more to his season when you kind of break down how he got there. This is a guy that didn't necessarily have elite talent around him. He was the guy making everyone around him better. And yeah, between his production, obviously the size, there is a lot to like about this prospect. And, Moose fans, maybe we see him get in a game, down the stretch, a game or 2 here. I'm sure the Jets would like to get a look at what he looks like at the pro level. And one thing we can say about him, Huss, you got to think physically anyways, the guy is ready to play pro hockey. Because if he still has some growing to do, then my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's huge. And we all know how much NHL teams love that. I was thinking about the Protash boys on the Caps. Well, Lexi, and then they just drafted his brother who's like 6'5". To me, there's some Adam Lowry in him. Like we saw Lowry sort of have some big time offensive numbers late in his WHL career. But
not like this though.
Well, exactly. 92 points in this game or in this last season. And, it was just such a big jump from what he'd had last year. I'm just pulling up Lowry here. Yeah, Lowry had 88 in his final season. He had 45 goals, 43 assists for 88 points. So a few more goals, couple less points.
Would that have been his draft plus 2 year?
Exactly. He was drafted in 2011. And the next year was actually kind of quiet, albeit he was a point-a-game player, but he was injured for half the year.
Yeah. But to have 92 in your draft plus 1 year, that's pretty special.
Well, especially when you were in the 40s when you actually got picked. And listen, that's probably why you ended up in the 4th round. But anyways, an exciting prospect, and it'll give some intrigue maybe to these final few games of the Moose season if some of these young players like him can get in, because otherwise it's been entirely forgettable for the most part for what the AHL club has gone through. Let's get back to tonight and this week overall, Mike. With Dallas leaving 3 on the table on the weekend and the Jets not taking advantage of the opportunity, those 3 points is the difference right now between Winnipeg and Dallas. Of course, the Jets have this tough one tonight against St. Louis. Tomorrow, the Dallas Stars play the Vancouver Canucks. The one thing that we can say, a win tonight will assure the Jets of being in first place on Friday morning, going into their final 3 games of the season against the Blackhawks, the Oilers, and the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, and still fully in control, regardless of how Dallas plays out, fully in control of their situation where, even if they were to lose clean to Dallas, the Jets would still be in a position, like you say, Huss, if they win tonight, where we move on. We just got to win our last 3. We don't care what Dallas does in their last 3. We just win ours and we're in. So yeah, it's a big game in that sense. And there was a scenario, to your point, Huss, like Dallas right now, I think they have the same number of regulation wins as the Jets, which is the first tiebreak. The Jets would have the second tiebreak, which is ROW, regulation and overtime wins. But if Dallas had won one of those games this week, like if they had taken all 4 points and one of those wins was in regulation, we'd be sitting here today and talking about the second place Jets. They would be tied, but if Dallas had got one of those wins they would have needed in regulation, it would have pushed the Jets to second. And I think psychologically, that's a pretty big deal. So here they are Monday, still in first, 3 points ahead. They could make it as much as 5 tonight. Vancouver won't be easy tomorrow, Huss, just in the sense that, like, if the Canucks lose tomorrow, they're done. Now, they may be done anyways because Minnesota would just need one more win. But the Wild don't play till Wednesday. So if you're the Canucks tomorrow, you can at least keep yourselves alive for one more day, but you have to win. And if you don't win, you're toast. So the Canucks have a lot to play for tomorrow, but the Jets have a lot to play for tonight. 3 points versus 5 feels a lot bigger. The bottom line, Huss, as we sit here today, the Jets need any combination of 8 points between now and the end of the season. Either 8 points that they gain and or 8 points that the Stars lose. Any combination of 8 gets the Jets in first. So the Jets have 5 games left. They go 4-1. Doesn't matter who that one is against. And if it's against Dallas, as long as they go 4-1 and win the other 4, they're in. And then they don't need any help. So, you know, it's certainly coming into focus here. As for the Blues, like, my goodness, they're just on a magical run. They've done it in so many different ways where they've, you know, rallied late and forced overtime and won it in overtime. And, you know, looking for answers today, Huss, how are they doing it? And I found the answer in an empty, well, mostly empty dressing room stall in their room. They are using the power of Jobu. For fans of the old Major League movie, Jobu, who was the little wild-haired doll that one of the Pedro Serrano in the Major League movie, he used to worship and pray to Jobu when he was going through a tough time. Well, the Blues have used Jobu. He has his own stall. There he is. That was my picture snapped earlier today inside the Blues room. He's got his own nameplate and everything. That, you know, that's their 2019 equivalent of Gloria, I suppose. You know, we all remember the song Gloria and kind of what it did for the Blues. Well, it would appear that Jobu is the 2025 version of Gloria.
Well, you know, to quote the great Pedro Serrano, F you, Jobu. One of my favorite lines in the movie. Hopefully the Jets can say the exact same thing tonight when they hit the ice tonight. Like the stakes are high, Mike. And you know what? Listen, we'll see what this means once we get to the playoffs. I mean, all of this will be forgotten depending on where the team obviously finishes. But, you know, for a team that looked like they were cruising to at least, you know, the division, the play of Dallas, and now this challenge from St. Louis tonight, it certainly does feel like the playoffs are already here right now, Mike. And, you know, maybe this will be a real positive just for what the team has to go through to finally lock this down if they're able to when the playoffs do begin against, an opponent that could be anywhere from the Minnesota Wild, even the Calgary Flames, to be honest. They've got 2 games in hand. They're 6 back. They play Minnesota coming up this week. But for the Jets, and this goes back to what Scott Arniel said, you know what? They saw they got some help, and we saw what happened on Saturday night. Yeah. This is a team that has to focus on what they've done. And, you know, to their credit, when they've had games like they had on Saturday night, pretty consistently, they've come back with very, very strong performances. And let's face it, they're going to need one if they're going to get 2 points this evening.
Well, just look on the road trip. I mean, they weren't at their best in Los Angeles to start the trip, and they followed that up with a great game in Vegas. And then they weren't at their best in Utah, so now they get a chance to follow that up. And certainly the Vegas game, you know, there's an example of a team that's playoff ready and a legit contender, and the Jets went in and were quite dominant. So, yeah, I mean, we know this team has it in them. I think certainly the Utah game, you know, between not having Ehlers, obviously Utah, that they're kind of playing loose. Like they're pretty much out of the playoff picture, but they are on the rise, and they had a nice game. They did some really good things. The Jets just couldn't match their intensity and certainly the execution that we saw. But, this is a chance for the Jets to really get back to their blueprint, get back to their DNA. This whole week is really, they're going to face not just St. Louis tonight and then Dallas. Then they got Edmonton to close out the week. They also have Chicago mixed in on Saturday night. So this is a huge week for the Jets. Like, when we sit here 1 week from today, they'll have just one game left. And if you're the Jets, Huss, you are hoping that final game on the Wednesday night against Anaheim means absolutely diddly squat. And, you could play you could call guys up from the Moose, bring up Elias Salamonson, bring up Brad Lambert, whatever. Like, and you're hoping that isn't a game where you must win and maybe also need some help. And so, how these next 4 games over the next 7 nights play out is ultimately going to tell the tale. But it all starts tonight. We know this Jets team never looks ahead. They are hyper focused, and so they've got a tough task tonight. Should make for a great evening at the downtown rink. Yeah, not hard for anyone not to look ahead when you got a team that's won 12 in a row coming into your barn tonight for what should be a great tilt. And I cannot wait to be in the building tonight for that 6:30 p.m. puck drop. Again, that's an Amazon game. So it won't be on TSN 3. Mike, always great stuff. What do you have cooking coming up along with your tag team partner Ken Wiebe and the Free Press as we move through today into Dallas on Thursday? Yeah, and I'll be on that road trip, Huss. I am just worked out great. Kenny was on the trip last week, of course. So I'm heading to Dallas and Chicago, so we'll have the tales from the road. But I've been working on a really interesting profile that's going to run later this week on Jennifer Botterill. Actually, I did some. I interviewed her and some other peers of hers in the industry. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that one with readers. It turned out real nice. And yeah, I'll have full coverage tonight from the game. The only downside to tonight's game, Huss, is we're not getting a Four Nations rematch. The Blues are not playing Jordan, Do I Look Nervous, Binnington. They're going to go back to the hometown boy again, Joel Hofer, tonight. And hey, why wouldn't you? He played great in here back in December when the Blues came into Winnipeg and won. But I'm sure folks were kind of hoping for a Hellebuck-Binnington rematch. Of course, Binnington got the best of that one at the Four Nations final, but we're not getting it this time around. Maybe we'll get it in the first round of the playoffs. Yeah, it's funny. We were going through the numbers earlier on, Mike, and their numbers are basically identical this year. Yeah. In fact, Hofer's got a much better winning percentage. He's got a slight advantage, a very slight, in save percentage and goals against. And I'm sure, they'd be the first ones to tell you, Monty and the gang, that goaltending has been a real strength of this team, certainly in the second half of the season, but it hasn't just been Jordan Binnington doing Connor Hellebuck things. They've been incredibly consistent with both of their goaltenders. So the Jets will have their work cut out for them tonight. Mike, thanks so much for doing this. Always great having you on the program. We'll catch up soon and do this again. Thank you. Have a great week. Good stuff. There's Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press. We're going to have Thomas Hickey jump on in a few minutes from Amazon to get us ready for tonight's game. Before we do that, let's give a big thanks to our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Hey, the snow's melting. It won't be long before we're out of Princess Auto Stadium cheering on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as they look to make it to a 6th straight Grey Cup and do it on home field at Princess Auto Stadium. Of course, Princess Auto, proudly founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg and now coast to coast, but with 3 Manitoba locations to serve you, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete those projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, Brandon as well, or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Hey, speaking of spring and summer, it won't be long before we're back up and getting ready to get on the water
Folks, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge is the spot in Manitoba. If you're thinking about maybe changing your travel plans this year and staying north of the border, consider a world-class fly-in fishing lodge where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as incredible as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality from the Turen family and the Aikens team is even better, if that's possible. Find out more on availability and options for the 2025 fishing season today over at aikenslake.com. And of course, check them out on all their socials over at Aikens Lake. And hey, big shout out to our friends at F Apparel. I know wedding season is coming up and people are getting ready to look good for the big day. In fact, Connor and some of his boys were down getting suited up for a big wedding coming up this season. They've got a couple great promos on right now. Obviously, great discounts for wedding parties when you get your suits for the big day at F Apparel. And if you've got a grad in the family, special deal for 2025 graduates where you buy a suit, you get a free custom shirt and tie. Of course, custom suits starting at $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, best selection of menswear accessories. It's all waiting for you down at F Apparel, 190 Smith Street. You can find out more online at that's EPH apparel.com. All right, well, listen, everyone's locked in for tonight's big tilt between the Jets and the St. Louis Blues, and it is a pleasure to welcome in part of the Amazon broadcast team, former NHLer Thomas Hickey, who joins us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk as we count down to 6:30. Hey, Thomas, great to have you on the program. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, you got it. My pleasure. It's going to be a fun one for sure. I got my nap in. I know I'll need that for today. But really what I'm excited to see, I mean, I was in this building earlier on in the year when the Jets had, an outstanding winning streak to start the season and ran into Toronto. And then they went on a run again. And all of a sudden now it's the St. Louis Blues. I'm really excited to see these two teams, how they match up because, St. Louis has gone on beating some really good teams. They've sort of been doing it in a way that's playing really tight and really detailed hockey, and that's sort of the way the Jets play as well. So I think it makes for just a great matchup.
Well, it certainly does, and there's a lot on the line right now. I mean, the Winnipeg Jets, despite being the number one team in hockey, have only a 3-point cushion over the Dallas Stars. And listen, we've been stressing over this for basically a month, basically since the deadline, knowing that if you don't hang on to first place, guess who's waiting in that first round? It's the Colorado Avalanche. And I'm sure you'd agree, for a path for success in the playoffs for the Winnipeg Jets in this uber competitive Central Division, the best thing you could possibly do for yourself is get that number one spot and let Dallas and Colorado spend the first 2 weeks of the Stanley Cup playoffs beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think as players or a team, I think you dance around a little bit because you're talking about the Stanley Cup and you need to beat one of those teams along the way. You got to beat 4 probably really good hockey teams, and the first one might be your lightest matchup. That's usually how it works. But I think from our perspective, we can look and go, look, this Jets team, are they cup contenders? Yes. Will they win it? Well, we don't know, but they're going to be judged a lot on the success in the playoffs. And as far as the first round and getting out of it, that's extremely important to them and moving forward, and maybe how things look going into next year. And the way you look at your roster, I do think it is important to win the first round. So you want the best matchup possible. And right now it looks like it's going to be against the 8 seed. And it looks like it's going to be maybe the Minnesota Wild, most likely the Minnesota Wild, but also a team that if they add Eriksson and Kirill Kaprizov back, it's the team that was nipping on their heels pretty much the entire season, for second place to first in the Central. They've just dropped off with those injuries, but they're going to be a much improved team. But I do agree with you, an advantage to be had not having to go against Dallas or Colorado in the first round. So really, really big for the Jets to finish up here and try to snag home ice.
Thomas, I mean, ahead of this matchup tonight, I mean, we'll include the Blues in this conversation, but Dallas, Colorado, Minnesota, it looks like we're going to have 5 teams in the playoffs from the Central Division. What do you make of just how strong this division is and just how difficult it'll be to win the whole thing, considering the push of the Dallas Stars, despite finally a little bit of a let up on the weekend, only getting 1 out of a possible 4 points for a change?
Yeah, it's stacked. It's absolutely stacked. I mean, that used to be, in my opinion, years and years past, it was the Metro. It was always the division that I felt probably had five teams that you thought they were all going to make the playoffs, and two or three of them you thought they could go all the way and really do it. And that's absolutely the Central now. It's the powerhouse, and you look down at the bottom of a playoff team in Nashville that was there last year, and they just completely fell off. But it's heavy hockey. Teams are a little bit bigger. The brand and the style, it's pretty similar from those five teams that we're going to see in the playoffs. And in this trade deadline, just the amount of talent that was added or taken from teams and just pumped right back into the Central. When you look at Dallas and you look at Colorado, especially, it's going to be tough. And to say that you finished at the top of that would mean a lot, I think, pride-wise, because we're talking about how good that division is, but also for the security of having not an easy first-round matchup, but maybe just a little bit easier. Because at the start of the year, Dallas was my team. I picked Dallas, and after the trade deadline, I was thinking, okay, I love Colorado. I love a bunch of teams. One of those teams is going to be out most likely after the first round, so avoid them at all costs if you can.
Yeah, listen, life ain't fair, and sometimes those matchups in the first round of the playoffs aren't either. But I mean, hey, there's 16 teams that are qualifying. Every single matchup is going to have, maybe a favorite, but I mean, another team that feels like they can go and win 4 games in 7. As far as tonight goes, this Blues team has been, and we kind of talked about it at Four Nations. Will they get a big bump from what Binnington has done? We're not going to see Binnington tonight, but we were just talking with Mike McIntyre. I mean, the goaltending numbers are basically identical between Hofer and Binnington right now. I know you've been spending some time talking to people around, like, how have they done it? What have the keys of this turnaround been? And how dangerous do you think this team will become playoff time? Likely crossing over to the Pacific and taking on the Vegas Golden Knights in round 1.
You know what? It's actually pretty boring. When I talked to Jim Montgomery this morning, it was great to catch up with the coach and sort of understand, because the last time we saw him was right at the end of January when they were just a trying group. The effort was there, but nothing else was there. And I'm close with a couple of guys in the Blues, and I've been reaching out. And even after this morning, what do I ask about? What's changed? They just go, details are really good right now. Okay, well, that doesn't describe a lot, I think, to you and I and a hockey fan, but we're going to see that picture tonight. And when I've watched these guys play a handful of times over this big winning streak, it is details, and that it encapsulates so many different parts of your game, but it's not one thing, right? So it's tough to say what's changed. Everyone's details have just gotten so much better, meaning whether it's situational hockey at the end of a period, a big penalty kill, the moments of the games that you need big plays, they're doing it. But I think just defensively as well, they talked about how detailed they are, maybe just staying on the right side of people, and maybe you don't get those odd man rushes. There's no 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s. And it actually does make for exciting hockey, because you think it sucks the joy out of it, but it actually infuses so much offense into your game. When I look at the Blues, and especially when we'll talk about in between the pipes, I mean, I wanted to see a Binnington go head-to-head against Hellebuck like we saw at Four Nations, and see how that's going to play out. But you get Manitoba and Joe Hofer, right? What a great spot to get him in. And the other thing to watch for, I think, when you talk about the Blues and details and how are they so efficient right now, a big part of it is how their goaltenders play the puck. I mean, I truly believe that. I think some people might think it's overrated. And Binnington gets a ton of praise, because he should. He might be the best guy in the league at handling it. 1B might be Joe Hofer. Like, you watch tonight, the guy's massive, but if you don't dump the puck in the right spot, it's a free breakout for the Blues. If not, it's a little less contact that they have to go back and absorb, because the goaltenders make a ton of plays. Maybe come another their net 50 times in a game. I mean, it's unbelievable, but they have that effect. And I think just the mix in St. Louis of, and this is hearing Doug Armstrong talk about it, the mix that they have of their young guys and their veteran guys, and sort of the embrace and the sharing of the load of what they're taking on right now. Because you've got some great veterans. You look at that back end in tonight's game, there's going to be 4 guys on the St. Louis Blues with over 1,000 games played, and Ryan Suter's, I think he's pushing 1,500. He might be there. So they've got a ton of knowledge on the back end, and then youthful exuberance up front. When you look at guys like Bolduc that's just starting to score a ton right now, especially on the power play, and Jake Neighbors, who I really like a lot. They've got this mix of people coming together. Then you've got the standard guys that have been there and won the cups, and and Thomas and Shen, and a really good depth pieces, much like the Winnipeg Jets. Line 3 and line 4, really similar to Jets, and as much as the top end of the Jets is their strength, I really love the depth that they have, and that's sort of what is mirrored right now in St. Louis.
Well, it's funny you say that, Thomas, because when at the beginning of your answer, talking about what the Blues say that has been going so well for them, just sticking to the details, doing the little things right. That kind of sounds like what we've been saying about this Winnipeg Jets team for 77 games for the most part. Very consistent, focused on the task at hand, and a deep team that's getting contributions from up and down the lineup, as much as you have some star players like a Scheifele and a Connor leading the way offensively. I mean, it's the attention to detail on helping out the goaltender and keeping the puck out of their net that is sort of the basis for the transition game and everything they do elsewhere in the game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and I think it's tough when there's a word like details that is thrown out, right? Because it's tough to describe it, because you could watch a shift or a game and there's one, and point to so many things. But when you do so many of them the right way, so let's talk about Winnipeg and their details. I mean, what stands out to me is obviously, yes, structurally, defensively, they've got a good thing going. But two things that stand out when I watch Jets. Number one, it's the way that they break out. Off the dump in, whether it's a goalie handle or it's been going back, with the exception of Josh Morrissey, that might, go back, look a guy off and make a phenomenal play and scurry up the ice. It's a committee approach, and it's usually 3 or 4 passes, a little bit, defenseman might go a little bump to his partner that might bump a 5-foot pass to the centerman, who bumps it up to the winger, and then you've got someone else slashing with speed, but everyone's in that frame and everyone's in the picture. That's detailed hockey, because everyone's underneath, not cheating to get ahead of the play, and it really makes it predictable for everyone. The other parts in the offensive zone, look, their skill. I love watching Scheifele and Connor together. It's a treat every time I get to see it, but they're really detailed in the way that they hunt pucks down, and that's not just those top 2 guys. I mean, Connor, probably in a very underrated fashion, pounds pucks and steals pucks and sticks lifts as good as anyone in the NHL. But forwards 1 through 12 or 1 through 15, whoever's in the lineup that night, there's this hunger to get the puck back, and that's detailed hockey, because usually it means you're moving your feet, you're not hooking, and you're really forcing a lot of pressure with your legs, and with that structure that they might have. The other teams run into trouble. But those are the two things: the way that they pursue pucks to get them back, and the way they support each other to come out. I mean, that's details in a nutshell, and they do that so very well. So, even the games that I've seen the Jets play that, 2-1s or the ones that are higher scoring, it shows up every time, but it's always enjoyable to my eye.
Thomas Hickey joins us, a longtime NHLer, and now with Amazon Prime for tonight's broadcast of the Jets and the St. Louis Blues. Hey, how have you enjoyed the transition from being a player to being a broadcaster?
I love it. I'm fortunate, really, to be honest with you. It's, while I was playing, I've always been consuming hockey every moment of my life. My free time, it's either watching or talking about hockey, with teammates. And, I didn't really think that, okay, well, there's a job after hockey for that, where you watch a ton of hockey and you talk about hockey constantly. So it's a dream for me. It's definitely, it's challenging, it's unique in a lot of ways. Really fortunate to, with my career on Long Island, getting to work for MSG, who covers the Islanders, just, an opportunity that, if I didn't get that, I probably wouldn't be doing it, but it was made available for me, and I'm grateful for that, and I've just sort of run with it. And with our show on Prime on Monday nights, I hope it's been well embraced in Winnipeg, all across the country, but especially the Jets. We get up for the Jets as we do all of them. But hope the detail and passion that we have in our jobs, we hope it shows for the viewers, and we hope it's unique in a lot of ways, because I think it is, just with the cast of people we have put together in front of the camera, that you hear us talking and see us, but also behind, just an extremely knowledgeable crew that understands the game so well. And hopefully that transforms into a great picture with all the resources that we have, with the backing of Amazon. We're in a really, really good position. And I think for me, just being my third year in it, realize I'm really fortunate that you play the game for a long time. Sometimes you get the break, you catch one, sometimes you don't. Early on in my career, I've been really lucky as far as the people I've got to work with, and the projects like this with Prime, not a project anymore. We're, wrapping up year one, second to last game tonight. So I think each show we do is better than the last one, because we've been learning so much about one another. So hopefully we can say that after tonight too.
Listen, I mean, I think the response to the games has been really positive. I mean, people weren't really too sure what to expect, but I mean, it is different. You mentioned the resources. I mean, the games sound better. They looked a little different. And tell you what, when they were picking the schedule at the start of the year, I don't know whether I had this Monday game between the Jets and Blues circled, but it certainly is the main event tonight in the National Hockey League. And I think people from across the country are going to be glued into what's happening at Canada Life Center tonight at 6:30, which, of course, you can catch on Amazon Prime. Thomas, I can't have you on the program today with all your years on the blue line for the New York Islanders without asking you about Alex Ovechkin's .895 and his goal scored against the Islanders yesterday. You would have played a lot against Ovi in that division during your time in the NHL. Give us the defenseman's experience of trying to handle a guy that scored more goals and lit more red lights than anybody in the history of the NHL.
Yeah, it's tough to describe, because everyone knew what the key was, how to stop that puck, he wouldn't be at .895. He'd be at many less. I mean, the thing that I sort of say to people, I killed penalties, and he was obviously out there for the full 2 minutes. And I can understand why he scores so much, because for a defenseman, you often have a great idea of when you're going to be in that shot lane and when the puck's going to hit you, when a guy's winding up for a slap shot or a wrist shot, and you're there getting braced for it. As look at Sandberg and Shen tonight, like if when that puck's going to hit you, and sometimes you're a little bit miffed when it doesn't. And there was never more times than Alex Ovechkin when I think I'm in the lane, and all of a sudden somehow it goes between my legs, and there's a little gap like this. So instead of the puck being sideways, it's like that, and the puck will find its way through. Something that you can't teach, just the most unique release maybe we've ever seen. And I think it fools a ton of goalies, because they ask themselves the same questions. And unfortunately, it's a goal when it gets by them. It's just maybe a scoring chance when it gets by you as a defenseman. But I was actually there yesterday, and that was I was coming here to Winnipeg, so I had a 3:45 flight, and it was a 12:30 game. So I didn't have much time to spare. I went saying, Obi's got 90 minutes till I got to leave, and maybe I'll witness part of history. And sure enough, it went in. So it was sort of the first game that I've been to in the capacity of a fan since before I was drafted. And not about me, but the fan experience of getting to see that and to witness it, and for it to be the perfect Ovechkin goal in every sense of it. Power play, the long release, but it happened so quickly. I was blown away, because I'm always at different vantage points when you're broadcasting, you see it differently. But to get that, for me, one of the coolest moments of my hockey life, really, and I'm still buzzing about it. Just exceptional.
There must have been a ton of Caps fans that decided to make the trip after that game against the Blackhawks, where he almost said it Friday night.
They had it about, I mean, you could tell, because it's all red jerseys, and they stand out. And Washington Capitals fans really actually underrated hockey fan. They don't get a ton of, you don't hear about them a bunch, but they traveled really well. I think they spent a ton of money. So I'm glad that they got rewarded, because those tickets were getting to be extremely expensive, but good for them. And you know what? I'm a passionate New York Islanders I'm a fan of the fans, really. And they did a phenomenal job too. I think there's some place around the league that you wonder how they're going to embrace and react to certain situations because they get so much pride and so much history as an organization. They fully embraced it yesterday. I thought they were outstanding in unison with all the Caps fans that were there, and it made for. I didn't think we were going to see a ceremony like that mid-game. I had no idea, and maybe some people didn't like it, but I thought the NHL did a phenomenal job. And for the Islanders to be the host of that, I thought it was really cool, and it was super special to witness.
No doubt about it. I have to ask, like, what was he like playing against? I mean, obviously there's the challenge of defensemen, but like in between the whistles, like, does he chirp you a lot? I mean, is he always talking a lot? Is it more just to his own teammates, or does he let you know that he's coming, or does he remind you that he's already got one or two on the board as the game goes on?
He picks his spots. I mean, I remember one time early in my career, I think it was my second year, he's physical, right? And he's strong, but he's up there for the all-time hits leaders, but he doesn't finish every single check, right? So it's really difficult sometimes when, especially as a smaller guy, I was going back for pucks and he'd be coming down on me a lot. So it's like, maybe first one, he's going to swing by, second one, he's going to swing the other way. And the third one, he's just gonna bury you, but you never know. And I think that's what good hitters do, is there's that element of surprise all the time. As far as smack talk, I mean, there was a couple times, but it wasn't rude, a big hit. I mean, early on in my career, I think he thought, okay, maybe I've seen this kid 3 or 4 times now this year. It looks like I'm going to see a bunch of them, and he'd give it to you, say a little something, but it wasn't even like a competitive jab of I'm letting you know how good I am, or I'm going to trash talk you. It was just sort of like, yeah, you're engaged now. It's like, you like that? Okay, here we go. But not super chatty otherwise. I think in between the whistles, I didn't hear much at all. I think it certainly seems like he talks a ton on the ice, a bunch on the bench, and certainly with his teammates. But I never found him a big trash talk guy. But you could tell when he was really engaged in the game, like any player, some more than others. And when Ovi was on and he was running around the ice and hitting guys, I mean, that was just as threatening as, especially at home when it was in DC. Those are the games you sort of knew you were in for a long one, because he's gonna beat you up physically. He had the ability to do that, especially against guys like me. And then he's gonna get his looks. There were certain nights that you had a feeling of he's really on tonight, and that's really not a good thing for us.
Hey, Thomas, you did a hell of a job picking a game to go to for the first one as a fan in a long time.
I wouldn't have been able to forgive myself. I didn't go. I said months ago, I saw it on the calendar. I was like, he's probably going to do it against the Islanders. You just had that feeling. And I said, if he's within 2, I'll go. And then I realized I had my flight. And I said, well, I don't think I'll be able to live with myself if I don't take the chance to just go and what if. And sure enough, I was lucky.
Straight from the rink to the airport and on your way to the peg for a big one tonight on Amazon Prime.
That's right. Yep.
Hey, listen, this has been a real pleasure having you on the program. Keep up the great work. Enjoy what should be an awesome game tonight in downtown Winnipeg. And maybe we can do this again sometime. Really enjoyed having you on the program.
Absolutely, Andrew. Yeah, if you guys enjoy, have a good one and enjoy the show tonight.
Appreciate it. There's Thomas Hickey. He'll be part of the Amazon broadcast team, bringing the game to you tonight of course, on Amazon Prime. 6:30 start, a little earlier than normal. And of course, you can watch it on Amazon Prime, but the place really to be is in the building tonight. Hopefully we'll have a great crowd and a playoff atmosphere in this game that means so much to the Winnipeg Jets, who are looking to lock down first place in the Central Division, which would mean first place in the West, and potentially, for those who observe, a first place in the overall standings, which would mean a President's Trophy banner at the end of the season. But the real carrot is getting the 1 seed in the West right now. And as we talked about with Mike, the Jets have their work cut out for them, but got a little bit of help on the scoreboard for a change on the weekend. So a 3-point lead going into tonight's game. All right, we're going to have Alex Ferrario join us coming up in a few minutes, probably about 15 or so, to get the latest from St. Louis on this. But it was a great stuff with Thomas Hickey. Shout out to Remus for making that happen and getting him on the board. Listen, let me fire up the why not question of the day. And we're now down to 5 games left. So this is a vibe check for you fans. And Remo, maybe we want to do another one of the polls. But considering the weekend, the disappointing game that the Jets played in Utah, but the help they got from Minnesota and Pittsburgh, as we come down to the final 5, how are we feeling, folks, about the Jets holding on to first place and getting home ice throughout the playoffs in the West and the 1-8 matchup? You can... you've got some good options when it comes to what they are, but I mean, you pretty much feel to lock it down. You're still really nervous. You're cautiously optimistic. Interested to know what your thoughts are. We'll get to how everyone's feeling coming up in fan feedback, brought to you by fansfirst.ca. So let us know in the chat as well with your thoughts on the weekend and the Jets' plight going into these final 5 games. While you do that and get back to it, the playoffs are happening. The Jets will be at home in games 1 and 2 of the first round, regardless of who their opponent is. And there is lots going on at Royal Sports as the whiteout section is packed right now with all your Jets merch in white, ready for the playoffs. The hoodies, the pants, the T-shirts, the player name and numbered shirts are there. And, of course, all the white jerseys, white fan chains, and more waiting for you right now. And I do believe they're doing a special drop of a unique hat they did in time for the playoffs, which is coming up. That's going to go very, very fast as well. Another reason to follow Royal Sports Winnipeg on Instagram, so you'll know when those things drop. You can get them before they're gone. Get ready for the playoffs and for spring. Bikes coming in, all your summer sports equipment. It's all waiting for you at Royal Sports, just in time to drop the puck on the Stanley Cup playoffs. 750 Pembina Highway. And, of course, online, Royal Sports Winnipeg on Instagram. Give them a follow there. Boston Pizza rocking again this week, tonight. And then, of course, the huge game Thursday night against the Dallas Stars. If you're not at the game, the next best place to be is always your local Boston Pizza with Jets Pick-a Player contest to win great prizes from BP and the big game on all the big screens with big sound. Make it BP tonight. And hey, if you are staying at home, maybe watching the game on Prime, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering hot and fresh to your door online at bostonpizza.com. We'll get to your fan feedback on how you're feeling about the Jets in first place right now in just a minute. But hey, coming off a great weekend, a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's hear how you're feeling right now, folks, and let's go to fan feedback, brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market, where what you see is what you pay. There's no added fees at Fans First. Go onto the site, see what the ticket cost is. That is exactly what you will be charged. And for my money, the best spot to sell tickets as well. Incredible customer service, quick payment the next business day after the game, and you know exactly what you'll be getting back the minute that you post your tickets as well. Check out the site today over at fansfirst.ca. The poll is this: how confident are you that the Jets will hold on to first place in the Central? Very confident is 20%. Pretty confident, but it'll be close, 71% right now. And to be honest, that makes a lot of sense. Not confident is now at 11%. So still 11% of you still thinking it's not going to happen. And then 1% says it doesn't matter. Just get in. I would put myself in that category too as well. Pretty confident. It will be close. There's a lot of work left to do, and they could go a long ways towards doing exactly that tonight with a win over the St. Louis Blues, and to be the first team in about a month to beat the Blues as they're coming in on a 12-game winning streak. Frosty Winnipeg, I'm really confident, like 50%. Yes, Kevin Kwok. Remo is a great poll maker. Solid options, always. Atomic is very confident. I like that. Johnny Bender, I'm pretty confident, but there have been some games where putting a little doubt into my mind, and I can tell you maybe Saturday was one of those dates. Keep your thoughts on the vibe check coming in on fan feedback, brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today over at fansfirst.ca. All right. We've got Coolbet lines coming up. National championship game tonight for the Final Four. 5 games in the NHL. And a big battle of the sexes curling matchup between the 2 world champions, Bruce Mowat and the Scottish team that won the Worlds yesterday in Medicine Hat, going up against Rachel Homan tonight. I'm here for that. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's get to a little Josh Morrissey. He's going to be playing a lot tonight. Big opportunity for the Jets, but looks like Colin Miller's going to be out. I'd imagine that is going to increase the workload on both of the top 2 pairings. But here's Josh Morrissey. He spoke this morning after the morning skate on this big one tonight against the red-hot St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, I mean, you don't go on streaks like that without all parts of your game clicking, and it's a tough thing to do in the NHL is go on streaks. So clearly they're playing great, probably feeling a lot of confidence. So for us, it's a great test. Obviously, we got 5 to go here, and try and continue to push for first place. So it's a big opportunity for us to play a big meaningful game tonight.
Push is on for first place right now. They're getting down to the short strokes of the regular season. Morrissey talked about just 2 huge games in the division tonight against St. Louis, and then, of course, what's to come Thursday with the trip to Dallas to take on the Chasing Stars.
I think it's good to be playing top teams and meaningful games, with a lot on the line right before the playoffs. Obviously we've had a great season and been, kind of comfortably inside the playoff lines all year, but we're pushing to finish off a great regular season here and get our game ready to go for the playoffs. So I think it's important and good that we're playing these top teams right now, and we want to be at our best.
All right. Now, listen, I mean, you don't know how things are going to shake out. Who's winning the Central Division? Who's going to be the first wild card? Who's going to be the second wild card? Anything is possible when teams make the playoffs. But Morrissey was asked if the Jets, in some ways, using this as a scouting opportunity if they were able to actually meet later on in the playoffs.
I don't necessarily think so. I mean, obviously, there's a possibility we end up facing them, in the playoffs at some point in time, no matter when that is. But I think for us, we're just focused on what we're doing. We're trying to win hockey games, trying to make sure our game's in the right place, and then, whoever we end up playing, in the playoffs, then we'll begin to prepare for them. But clearly, these next 2 games, obviously against 2 divisional playoff teams, 2 teams that very well we could play in the playoffs. You want to put your best foot forward.
Now, this is going to have a playoff type feel. I mean, certainly with what St. Louis is bringing in, the circumstances and the situation the Jets find themselves in when it comes to first place. It's a big one. And Morrissey talked about kind of moving on from Saturday and gearing up for a huge game like we've got tonight in Winnipeg.
The goal is to obviously be consistent and bring your best game every single night. Obviously, that doesn't happen over 82 games. You try and rely on your structure and your depth and everything like that. Special teams, to be able to win you games and when everything's not necessarily firing. Unfortunately, we didn't have that going the other night. We've been pretty consistent this year at bouncing back after losses, and as I mentioned in a few of the other answers, it's great to be playing against a team that's firing on all cylinders. And, these next 2 games here against teams that, like I said, we very well could be playing in the playoffs, and divisional opponents and teams that are at the top of their game. So, the answer is we need to be ready to go.
Yeah, they certainly do need to be ready to go a lot more than they were Saturday night, as we heard from the coach earlier today. Listen, this Blues team is on an absolute tear right now. That was the team that knocked the Jets out in the first round in 6 games and then went all the way to win the Stanley Cup. Morrissey just asked what's thought about the Blues and if there's some flashbacks of that incredible heater they went on in 2019.
I mean, obviously, you look back at their team in was it 19 that went on that run and followed a similar path. I'm sure that guys that are still on that team, are feeling similar vibes. But that's why we talk about it's a long year, right? I mean, you can get off to a great start, you can get off to a poor start, and there's a lot of hockey to go. So what they've done is impressive, and certainly the streak that they're on is impressive. I guess the other 15 teams come playoff time are trying to, not repeat what happened when they won the Cup in 19. But, again, it's important for us to focus on tonight, and it's a great opportunity against a team that's feeling great and playing great. And, we need to bring our best game, and hopefully that brings our best out of us here.
All right, well, we're looking for the best tonight. They're going to need it to beat a team that has rattled off 12 in a row, a big win over the Colorado Avalanche on the weekend. We'll see whether the Jets can be the team to end the streak for the St. Louis Blues. Obviously, the Jets are going to need to bring their best, as will the fans tonight at Canada Life Center. Here's one more from Morrissey, just talking about the fan support for the Jets as they approach the playoffs and the whiteouts here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, I've been fortunate to call this my home arena my entire NHL career. You talk to guys that have, been visitors into this arena, and it's never an easy place to play. And, that's something as players and as a team, we try to take pride in our game at home, and definitely the fans do their part. So it's been great to have, the sellouts, and, I think the fans are getting pretty riled up here for what's to come in the next number of weeks. So, it means so much to us to have the building full and obviously to have that support. And, I think the way our team has played this year, just being around the community, a lot of people, I think we've earned some respect from the fan base in terms of the way we play, the commitment to, hard work and trying to be a team that plays the right way. So, it's special, and definitely we want to, tonight here and going forward, the rest of the regular season into the playoffs, give them lots to cheer about.
Right, there's some good stuff from Josh Morrissey just on the fan support this season that they've had, and tell you what, listen to the guy with the A on his chest. The place to be tonight, Canada Life Center. If you don't have tickets, find a way to get in that building tonight and get ready for what should be a hell of a hockey game. And we'll see whether the combination of a stronger performance from the Jets and some bedlam in the arena can help the Jets get 2 huge points and end the Blues' 10-game winning streak. One other interesting matchup in tonight's game is Schenn on Schenn. Of course, Braden Schenn and the St. Louis Blues going up against his brother Luke Schenn and the Winnipeg Jets. Luke Schenn talked this morning about who's winning this Schenn on Schenn showdown.
Ooh, I mean, I don't know. I've been on some teams and had some tough years, and he's had some good years, and St. Louis for the most part has been a pretty successful franchise. So I'm not sure head to head, but it's always fun for obviously both of us. We don't take these opportunities for granted. Obviously, we're both obviously in the latter stages of our careers, and you don't take anything for granted. It's special for us to get the opportunity to do this. It's special for friends and family who've been supportive and follow us throughout our careers. So yeah, it's in a sense not just another game, just because obviously Brady and I are fortunate to get to do this, and they're always special when we get the chance to go at it.
How many times is it? Have you counted?
No, I have no idea.
No idea.
No clue.
And you've never met in the playoffs, right?
No, we haven't. Played together in the playoffs in Philadelphia.
Right.
All right, so there's Luke Schenn on going up against his brother, and I would imagine You will probably see a pretty nice contingent of our friends from Saskatchewan making the trip out to see the Shen boys do a battle. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some blue Shen jerseys in the crowd for the St. Louis Blues. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some Jets or maybe some assorted Luke Shen jerseys from other stops that he's been in before arriving here in Winnipeg to play for the Jets. Here's just Shen talking about the last meeting head-to-head with brother Braden.
The first game after Christmas this year, we went in Nashville is in St. Louis, so on the December 27th.
Okay. Any memorable encounters with each other on the ice? Anything that stands out? I know you probably never dropped the gloves.
No. There's a couple ones. I mean, yeah, a couple. Not too proud of it. We tell this story. Well, he got back a couple years ago. I was playing in Vancouver, and obviously he was with St. Louis. I was in the penalty kill. He was on the power play, and he just come back from having some broken ribs, and I was in the corner and wasn't really thinking, and gave him a little whack right above the pants, and ended up stinging him again and getting him pretty good. And I was after the game, I was waiting for him, to come outside the dressing room, and they were going on a back-to-back to Calgary, and he wasn't coming out, and I asked the trainer where he was, and he was getting another x-ray, and it was all my fault. But my dad called me after the game and said, what the hell were you thinking? and I said I wasn't. So that's pretty much, that's the one that, like I said, you're not going out there, you're trying to compete. Obviously he's a forward, I'm a defenseman. You got to be hard on each other, but you never want to obviously injure your brother.
Little Shen on Shen crime there, and I have a feeling we'll see a little bit more of that tonight in this monster tilt between the Jets and the St. Louis Blues. So listen, the Blues are the hottest team in hockey. They've won 12 in a row. They will be back in the playoffs, and I think they are scaring, and they should expect the best from pretty much everyone, especially a Winnipeg team that needs these 2 points so badly. Let's head to the Lou right now and welcome in our pal Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN and part of the St. Louis Blues radio broadcast. Alex, thanks so much for doing this. Great to talk to you again. And man, this should be a good tilt tonight between two teams that have a lot to play for right now.
It really should. And I got to tell you, it's such a refreshing feeling to get these matchups, and no disrespect against the teams that the Blues went up against, but playing Nashville 3 times in about 10 days, taking on the Penguins, who have given the Blues a run for their money. I think the best way to test out if this is just a hot streak, which in my opinion it's not, but the best way to really see what your team is made of is when you go up.
We just drop him?
I think we just lost him. I don't know.
We did. Well, we'll see if we can get Alex back right now in just a second. He was just getting going. I mean, they had when you win 12 in a row in the National Hockey League, you deserve all the credit that it's coming to you. Now, I know they beat Nashville 3 times in Pittsburgh. They've also got 2 wins against the Colorado Avalanche, and this win will hopefully get Alex back on and talk to him a minute about that 5-4 win. But I mean, 2 big wins over Colorado over the course of this winning streak. And I mean, I think that this team feels like they are absolutely ready to challenge the top teams in the National Hockey League. And let's face it, when you look at the standings right now, go all the way up to the top, that team at the top is the Winnipeg Jets, albeit incredibly, incredibly close. And, for St. Louis, Remus, this is a game that, I mean, do they absolutely have to have it? Probably not. But as much as we're all stressing over first place in the Central, Minnesota's win yesterday, I mean, they're still right there with the Wild. And I think we all realize that if you're going to be a wild card team, the path through the Pacific, probably a little bit better neighborhood to start off your playoff journey than right here in the stacked Central.
Yeah, the Central's so good. And St. Louis, they think they're just living up to maybe the expectations from before the season, got off to a slow start, fired the coach. But you're seeing them, a player like Rob Thomas, maybe flies a little under the radar, one of the better playmakers in the NHL. One player to watch today, they did just sign out of college, Jimmy Snuggerud, who's penciled in right now on that top line with Thomas and Buchnevich. And Jordan Kyrou, Braden Shen, and Jake Neighbors, very solid second line. So this Central, very, very stacked with the Jets, Dallas, Colorado, and whoever it may be, wild card 1, wild card 2 is St. Louis. I mean, that's very, very strong. And yeah, I think Vegas, very good. In the West, we'll see, or sorry, in the Pacific, we'll see what happens with Edmonton in terms of health. I mean, you're expecting to get McDavid and Draisaitl back. And look, we saw LA last week. They're a very strong team too. So I don't think there's any easy path where maybe in the past in the playoffs, if you got one, you knew you were getting some cupcake team in the 8th seed. I don't really think it's like that anymore. I think every matchup is going to be very tough.
Yeah, listen, I mean, with all due respect to the Habs and the way they're playing, I mean, there's not a Canadians team in the West. I mean, 1-8. Every team will have a chance to win on any given night, all have their strengths moving forward. And yeah, listen, I mean, I don't mean to say, oh, it's an easier path. I just think for a team like St. Louis, knowing that Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, and basically 3 of the top 6 teams in the NHL all in that division, you might be better off seeing what you could do against Vegas, who, to be honest, hasn't looked particularly good over the course of the last couple of weeks, and certainly did not have their best for the Winnipeg Jets coming up last on Thursday. As far as the Blues go for tonight, obviously there's no Gabe Vilardi and no Neil Pionk, potentially no Colin Miller for the Winnipeg Jets. For the Blues, Torrey Krug's on IR. They are missing Colton Parayko, and now they're missing Dylan Holloway, who's had just an amazing breakout season after being part of that dual offer sheet from Doug Armstrong in the offseason. So they won't be in the lineup tonight. And listen, with Holloway out, I think that does open up the opportunity for the newcomer Jimmy Snuggerud to get some time with Robert Thomas and Butch Nevich on that top line. Braden Shen in the middle of Jake Neighbors and Jordan Kyrou. I mean, a pretty deep and stacked top 6, really, when you look at, I mean, Kyrou, a player that, can put up big time points, and Neighbors with what he's turned into. Oscar Sundqvist in between Bolduc and Matthew Joseph, and then Radek Faksa with Torpachenko and Nathan Walker on the 4th line. The defensive pairings are the other former Oiler, Philip Broberg, playing top pairing with Justin Falk. You've got Nick Leddy and Cam Fowler, and Ryan Suter and Tyler Tucker. And it is amazing when you talk about the experience on that blue line with Falk and Leddy and Fowler and Suter to go along with the younger players in Broberg and Tucker, awaiting the return of Colton Parayko at some point, Remo. And then, of course, as we've talked about throughout the show, we aren't getting the Four Nations rematch of Binnington versus Hellebuck. This is going to go to the Manitoba native Joel Hofer, who gets a chance to go head-to-head with Connor in a building that he's had success in earlier this season.
Yeah, it was crazy to hear Thomas Hickey mention how many defensemen the Blues have that have played over 1,000 games. And Ryan Suter got over 1,500, 1,522. So experienced blue line. Ryan Suter, 40 years old, still going with the Blues. And Joel Hofer in it, we looked at the numbers at the start of the show, very similar, and Joel Hofer's had very good numbers against the Jets as well, so I think they should have confidence in him. And we saw another Manitoba goalie come into Winnipeg, and James Reimer earlier this a couple weeks ago.
Oh man,
and had a great game. So I don't know what it is with these homecoming games, Huss, but these goalies from Manitoba come home and seem to have good games.
Well, listen, as they say, the numbers that, the Bruce goalies have put up are basically identical. So, I mean, certainly by the numbers, there's no drop-off right now from Binning to Joel Hofer. We've reconnected with Alex Ferrario. Alex, great to have you back. And
sorry about that.
No problem. We were just leaving. You were just talking about this winning streak the team's been on, and now they're sort of moving up a weight class, or they have. I mean, 2 wins and a recent win against the Colorado Avalanche, and now measuring themselves against who is, as we go into action tonight, the number 1 team in the entire NHL.
Yeah, I think that's been the most important part with this, Andrew. Like, I think a lot of people have seen the Blues in this win streak and said, like, is this just a hot streak? Is this really the team that we're seeing? And look, in my opinion, when you can beat a team 3 times in 10 days like they did against Nashville, and I think at this time of the year, those bottom dwellers are just as tough as the top seeded teams because they've got nothing to play for. They're going out to basically get reps for their younger players, and that's where typically those disappointments come from. The one thing about this Blues team that has remained consistent for 12 straight games is their play has never changed. Like whether it's been against Colorado or Winnipeg, or if it's been against the Pittsburgh Penguins, they've played the exact same style of hockey. Now, I do think fatigue has started to kind of kick in for this team because they've played so many games. They've won 12 in a row in a span of 21 days, which just seems absurd to me. But the fatigue factor seems to be setting in, but it's just a confident group right now. It's a group that knows even when they get down in a hockey game, they'll find a way to get back into it. And that's what's, in my opinion, making them so dangerous.
Take us back. I mean, you've been, with the club since day one of the regular season, right up until tonight. You fire a coach, you bring Monty in. It's funny, we were talking about Montgomery as a potential Jack Adams candidate, and I'm not sure there's ever been a guy that has been fired mid-season.
There hasn't.
And then won the trophy for another team. Now, listen, there's some other great candidates, but take us through the first period of Monty being in, and at what point did this team kind of hit another level, which obviously is a level that no one's matched in the league for the last month or two?
Yeah, the new coach bump set in right away, Andrew. Like they won the first game. It was the last game before Thanksgiving break. They beat the Rangers, and it was a 5-2 score. And then after that, they played the Devils. They won that game, but the Devils, it looked pretty ugly. They weren't good in their own end. They were making some of the same mistakes. And at that point, you're like, okay, it's not fixed yet. They'd lose the next game. It was still that they hadn't won 3 in a row, and that was the narrative around the Blues. And then from the end of November until December 31st, when they played the Winter Classic, they still rode that roller coaster to where you'd have a couple of games that looked good, but then they'd fall back down to earth. And you could tell some guys were injured. And to answer your question, when it turned at the Four Nations break. It turned when they got 2 weeks off to rest the guys that weren't performing well. Pavel Buchnevich, he was just not the same guy. Robert Thomas, between being injured earlier in the year, and then I think that the mental side of not being selected for the Four Nations tournament really affected him. So rest set in for those guys. And then the part that nobody really talked about was they got 5 days worth of practice with Jim Montgomery. From the moment Jim Montgomery took over as a head coach to the Four Nations break, that team had practiced only 9 times. So they played so many games to where it was morning skate and then day off or a back-to-back. They only got 9 practices in with Jim Montgomery and his system. So then they got 5 days off where they just went to work practicing. And Monty even said, guys came back. They were playing more physical in practices. They were going to the net more. And I think health, mindset shift, and multiple practices with Jim Montgomery embraced a system that they believed in and they all bought into. And then you're talking from Four Nations break on, they lost 4 games all the way through.
It has been it's been something to watch. And I mean, I was in Boston, for those games, and we left, and obviously Binnington, not normally a very popular dude around these parts. We were loving him then, but then think, watch him get hot. But this hasn't been like a hot goalie that's been carrying a team. This has been really a team that has, in a lot of ways, we were just talking with Thomas Hickey, doing a lot of things that Winnipeg has done. Attention to detail, strong defensive play, starting off, helping out your netminder, and letting the offense come from there. And, once you get that sort of momentum and you are doing the right things repetitively, it can have a big, big difference when it comes to the overall standings. And that's where they are right now. I have to ask you about Holloway, who's not playing tonight, in Broberg. Those 2 offer sheets, which are so rare, look to be, one of the shrewdest moves by an NHL GM in a long time. To get that influx of youth, I see Broberg's on the top pairing right now. We know Holloway's had a monster season. How big has the additions of those 2 players at a relatively low cost draft pick wise, as opposed to what they paid, been to maybe changing the look of this team and giving them a bump offensively?
Been monumental. I mean, coming into this season prior to those offer sheets, the narrative was still, this is a retooling team, and we're talking about probably another year or 2 before you're really getting back to not even competitiveness, but trying to be a playoff team. And what they did when they went out and got Holloway and Broberg, and I don't even think that was expected that those guys would be doing this, but what they found was they found two hungry individuals that changed the trajectory of this plan by Doug Armstrong. In my opinion, they sped up this retool process into what should have been maybe another year or two to be a playoff team, to now opening up a window where they can be competitive for the next however many years. And it's the roles that those guys have played. Like, we all saw it in the Stanley Cup final last year. Holloway was a guy that was creating that depth of scoring. Broberg was playing significant minutes for Edmonton, and you were thinking, whoa, where did these guys come from? But the moment Broberg stepped into St. Louis, he looked like a top pair defenseman. He was skating the way that Jay Bouwmeester used to skate for the Blues. He was providing offense that was just unheard of for this team. And then he got hit with the injury. And everybody in St. Louis panicked, to show you kind of how much that he meant to the Blues. And since he's come back, he's just been the definition of consistent. Every single night, you're going to get about 21, 22 minutes from him. I got a saying that's like, he's like vanilla ice cream. He's on the ice, but you don't know he's on the ice because he's not doing anything wrong. He's just impacting plays in his own end. He's got speed. And then the Dylan Holloway, it is so rare, in my opinion, Andrew, that a team can bring in a 23-year-old player that already becomes a pillar of a franchise. And that's what Holloway has become. Like, he came in and I thought he was going to be at best a third-line winger. Now we're arguing in St. Louis if this is the top-line winger that the Blues have been without for the longest time. I can't think of many teams that have screwed up as much as the Edmonton Oilers did, in terms of they had the money to bring not just one, but both of those guys back. But Dylan Holloway was $2 million. And Dylan Holloway is now pushing. He's injured right now and potentially done for the rest of the regular season. We'll have to wait to find out. But he's pushing 30 goals. He's pushing 70 points. And he's pushing being one of the guys that I think you could be talking about winning a series in the playoffs if the Blues can do it.
No, I mean, I do a show every day with Dustin Nielsen out in Edmonton. And if I ever want to push his buttons or really, get people in the chat losing their minds, I just bring up those two guys' names. Yep. I'm like, oh, how's Holloway doing, by the way? We should check that. I mean, such an L. And to your point, like, they could have signed these guys to much less than they got from St. Louis. But they went and got Arvidsson. They went and got Skinner, and they totally exposed themselves in a situation that you just don't see very many NHL general managers put them in, and it burned them big time. And the Blues seem to be reaping the benefits of it every single time they play a game.
They absolutely do. And I mean, part of me has thought, do those guys look the same way in Edmonton? Because I don't know if Holloway's playing in their top two lines, because they got a lot of pieces there. Now, maybe he would be, because Arvidsson and Skinner haven't been performing well. Philip Broberg's playing in their top four, but does he look the same? I don't know if they're the same players in Edmonton, but regardless if they are or not, if you're Edmonton, like when they made that trade to send Cody Ceci to the San Jose Sharks, it was the night before the offer sheets they decided to decline. I was texting with my co-host, our producers, and saying, they're not going to get both of them. And what's wild about it, Andrew, is in St. Louis, people were going to be more upset if they got Holloway over Philip Broberg, because the Blues have been desperate to find a left-handed defenseman that could be a top four. They've been searching for him. So there were people like, the Blues are going to get Dylan Holloway, but they're not going to get Philip Broberg. And now I think if you were to ask Blues fans, they would say, man, if we wouldn't have got Dylan Holloway, I don't know what this team is going to look like. But to be Edmonton and have nothing in your pipeline and just sit there and say, yeah, $2 million, it's too much for a Dylan Holloway, that still blows my mind. And we are not talking today about the same narrative of this Blues team without it.
Hey, I got to quickly ask you about Jimmy Snuggerud. What have you seen from the newcomer? He's going to be playing his fourth NHL game tonight, and it looks like he's in a pretty good spot riding shotgun with Thomas and Booch on the top line.
Yeah, not too bad. It's 2 games after your college season. I think he went to dinner with Sidney Crosby when Pittsburgh was in town. He picked up 2 points in the 2 games, and then, he's playing with Thomas and Buchnevich. I've been impressed with him. The narrative of him is he's a sniper. He's a goal scorer. We've seen him take some really elite shots already that goalies have bobbled. It just hasn't gone in for him yet, but we've seen the playmaking ability. So this is just another one of those pieces that makes a lot of optimism for Blues fans right now, because nobody was relying on Jimmy Snuggerud to come in and play right away. He was just a depth piece. But now I mean, you're talking about a guy who has the ability to score a goal with one flick of the wrist, but he's got playmaking ability. His hockey sense is up there with a lot of the guys that are already seasoned vets. So I think Jimmy Snuggerud is going to be a pivotal piece for this team now with the Holloway injury in these last 4 games. And I think he's also going to be a pretty important piece once they get into the playoffs.
Alex Ferrario is with us from the St. Louis Blues radio broadcast team on 101 ESPN in St. Louis. Just on the way out, I have to ask you how this hot streak and the run the team's been on has been resonating with Blues fans. What's it been like on the show? What's it been like in the building? And is it feeling like 2019 all over again in St. Louis?
I was going to ask you the same question. Is it feeling like 2019 again in Winnipeg? Are fans praying that the Blues do not see the Jets in the first round?
You know, to be honest, not really. They're more worried about not winning the Central Division and having to play the Avalanche.
That makes sense.
And listen, maybe that's just because they lost to the Avs last year. We saw what that team has done. And listen, they've been on top all year long. You know, like with all due respect to the Blues or Minnesota, just seeing Dallas and Colorado beat the hell out of each other for 2 weeks, I think is in everybody's best interest. But yeah, I mean, listen, if we're talking about a team that's going to be first and you're asking them, well, you like St. Louis or you like Minnesota? I think based on everything that's happened, you'll probably take the Wild, not to mention Jet fans could quite easily get to those games and it might be fun. But as we know, I mean, listen, everything goes out the window after game 82. You got to earn your spot. Both of these teams have done it. There's a lot of jockeying right now, but it's safe to say that the Blues have been the team that has been catching everybody's eye over the course of these last few weeks, and it should be a hell of a game tonight.
Yeah, it really should. And you're right. Like, I would be praying to avoid Colorado or Dallas if I'm Winnipeg. So it has felt a lot like 2019. And it's not so much of just the win streak. It's just the way the team is playing. Like, for the last 3 years, Andrew, it's been a lot of the players not gelling well. Like, it hasn't felt like a team. It's always been like you get the ups, you get the downs, and then teams would just kind of break away and the frustration would set in. This team is fully invested in Jim Montgomery's plan. They're playing for each other, which is what I also said in 2019. And much like 2019, the vibe around the city is if we get in, we are going to be a tough team to knock out in 7 games. I don't know if the Blues can win a round. Like, Jordan Binnington's a guy that could steal a round. We've seen it before. This offense, in my opinion, is better than what they had in 2019. And I think their defense, when healthy, could be as well. It's going to come down to, do they get the bounces? That's how playoffs work. And I think if it's the Jets, if it's the Golden Knights, heck, if it's the Dallas Stars, Dallas scares us in St. Louis just like they scare Winnipeg, just for how top to down they are built. But it feels a lot like 2019 in the sense that I will be very impressed if a team can beat the Blues in 7 because they're just playing so well.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, they're not stealing anything right now. They're going out and earning it, and they're winning it every night, and 12 in a row says it all. And we're just hoping that it's not a baker's dozen by the time we're end tonight. Hey, have a great broadcast tonight, Alex. Thanks so much for doing this. I know you're busy. Appreciate you jumping on with us before this big one tonight in the Peg.
Absolutely. Andrew, apologize on the Wi-Fi issues that we had, but I always love hopping on with you and talking Blues and Jets, and look forward to this one. Enjoy it tonight, and hopefully we'll be talking in a 7-game series coming up soon.
You got it. We'll look forward to catching up soon. There's
care,
Alex Ferrario in St. Louis, 101 ESPN. Now, he actually got into the broadcast booth as well this year, but does the 11 to 2 show in St. Louis. So if you want more on the Blues, you can fire that up before WST and see what they're saying about St. Louis. But all eyes on Canada Life Center tonight for this 6:30 start between the Charging Blues and the Winnipeg Jets. Listen, we got to get to the Coolbet lines. Before we do that, let's do a quick little update for the Breezy Bend Golf update, because the Manitoba golf season is just around the corner, but it is Masters Week, and we're getting ready for Augusta this weekend. However, there was one more tournament to be played on the PGA Tour on the weekend. That was the Valero Texas Open. Tough final round, and a lot of guys backing up, but it was Brian Harman, the former Open champion, who cruised in his first 2 rounds, 66-66. He needed it all. He ended up winning the tournament at 9 under par. Corey Connors finished T18 at 2 under, a tournament that he's won twice before. And now they move to Magnolia Lane. Practice rounds were put off today due to bad weather at Augusta, but it looks like it's going to be better. And of course, everything gets going on Monday. Huge thanks to Breezy Bend for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Folks, if you're looking for an amazing long-term home for you and your family at one of Manitoba's top private courses, get on the waiting list today. Contact Corey Johnson over at Breezy Bend, or more information at breezybend.ca. And cannot wait to get out to Breezy for the Manitoba Open, returning to Breezy Bend later on this summer. We'll be live for a few days. You can count on that at the biggest tournament of the year in Manitoba golf. Oh, and by the way, speaking of Manitoba golf, shout out to our pals over at the 18 Over Par Pod. I jumped down to the Fourth Line Bar out in St. James yesterday and hooked up with the fellas for a bit of a Masters betting preview. So you can check that out wherever you get your favorite pods. And a perfect segue over to Coolbet, as Masters odds have been reset today. Everyone's going to be making their picks. Before you do your picks at Coolbet, make sure to opt in on the Canadian Open contest that we're doing with our pal Pat Mayo. All you need to do is go into bonuses and put in Can Open, CANOPEN, and make sure you've opted in. We'll also have a link in the description here. And then for every $10 you bet on the Masters or next week's tournament, you'll get an entry to win a trip for two to Toronto Canadian Open, couple days at the golf, a Blue Jays game, the live Mayo show on Saturday night. So, listen, this is the biggest and most bet golf tournament of the year. If you're doing it, the odds at Coolbet always are as competitive or maybe better than just about anywhere else. Take advantage of it. Opt in before you make your bets so you're eligible to win that great trip from our friends over at Coolbet. Speaking of Coolbet, we'll take a look at those Masters lines in just a second, but let's get to the NHL tonight. We've got 5 games. There's the link, by the way. There's the opt-in over at Coolbet. That's what you're going to want to do. Click on that, and then you're good to go. We've got the Lightning at the Rangers tonight. Tampa's minus 154 faves. The Rangers, after getting shut out at home by Jersey on the weekend, Rangers plus 130 and hanging on by dear life to playoff hopes. The Kraken and the Kings, Seattle's plus 190, Kings minus 227. Flames and Sharks. Flames 6 back of Minnesota with 2 games in hand and a head-to-head game against Minnesota this week. They got to have it. Calgary minus 208 favorites tonight. The Oilers are in Anaheim to take on the Ducks. No Dry, no McDavid. Edmonton still a minus 147 favorite. Ducks plus 125. And then our game here in Winnipeg. This has been interesting. The line has been moving towards the Jets all day. It opened up at minus 167, I believe. It was minus 169 for the Jets when we were doing the lock shop, and now it's minus 182, which is a pretty big number for a team going up against a team on a 12-0 run in their last 12 games. Blues as an underdog plus 153, totals 5.5 on tonight's game. I did cook up a little WST exclusive. This is a big one tonight. We got to have the Jets to win. Kyle Connor often has big games against the St. Louis Blues. So we've got Kyle Connor to score. And this is playoff Lowry time. These games feel like playoff games. Adam Lowry's going to get a ton of work tonight and a ton of ice. I think he gets on the score sheet. So a Kyle Connor goal, an Adam Lowry point, Jets to win. It's boosted to plus 550 in the Coolbet exclusives. We also put together a partner parlay for games not involving the Jets or Oilers tonight. We're taking Tampa on the money line. We're taking Calgary on the money line. And just to get the odds up, because these are all 3 favorites, we're going to take the Kings on the puck line. So LA to beat the Kraken by 2, Tampa and Calgary, that was plus 425. That is boosted up to plus 489 right now, and that's in the combo cards right at the top of the page. Now, we'll get to the golf in just a second. There is this matchup tonight. Now, I don't know exactly what these rules are. There's going to be some unique rules. There's going to be something, it's some sort of a skins game that they're playing. So I would suggest before you make a wager, you go over to the Grand Slam of Curling main page for all the details and the rules. But this is going to be cool. It's already completely sold out. Bruce Mowat, who won the World Championship yesterday with Scotland, going up against Rachel Homan, speaking of buzzsaws, and their incredible team and the incredible season that they just had. Originally, like when we did the lock shop, this was minus 175 for Mowat, plus 125 for Homan. I see it's now down to 145 for Mowat and plus 105 for Homan. Again, there are some quirks. This isn't just a normal 8-end or 10-end curling match. So check that out. I'm waiting to make a pick on this until I get a little bit more details on it. But the battle of the sexes in curling on tonight. I believe the matchup is available on YouTube. And again, Coolbet has the lines on it. Minus 145 right now for Mowat, the men's champion, plus 105 for Rachel Homan, the women's champion. And then you got the AMGA Players Championship all there right now for you, along with outrights for the men, which has Bruce Mowat, go figure, the favorite, followed by Brad Jacobs. Mowat beat Jacobs in the semifinal after poor Jacobs goes 11-1 and then loses to Mowat, the only team to beat him in the round robin, and ended up settling for bronze. And no surprise on the women's side, it's going to be Rachel Homan, minus 132 favorites to win the entire thing. We got the national championship game tonight, and this is pretty much a pick 'em. Florida minus 115 on the money line. Houston minus 105. If you do want to take the spread, Florida to win by 2 is minus 108. Total on the game is 140.5. I got Florida in the bracket, so I think I'll ride with the Gators in this one. But I won't be paying any attention to it because I'm going to be locked in the stands down at Canada Life Center for this big one tonight between the Blues and the Winnipeg Jets. And as far as the Masters goes, the lines were reset today. Scotty Scheffler is the favorite, plus 470. Great number on Scheffler, Coolbet. I've seen 4-1 in a lot of other places. Rory is plus 675. Then you've got a gap. John Rahm, interestingly enough, coming off the Live Miami. He's 15-1 with Morikawa, 17-1 on Bryson. Ludwig Goldberg now 19-1. 24 on Xander and JT, 30-1 on Neiman, another Live player, and Hideki Matsuyama. Shane Lowry obviously got bet pretty hard today. He was at 40-1 when we did the lock shop earlier, just before, and now he's 32-1, along with Brooks Koepka. 35s include Spieth, Hovland, Fleetwood, and Patrick Cantlay. Minwoo Lee, I bet him at 50-1 during the lock shop. He's down to 45-1. Russell Henley's also gone from 55 to 45. Our guy Corey Connors, along with Tyrrell Hatton and Bobby Mack, all at 50-1. Cam Smith, Will Zalatoris, 55. Sepp Straka, 60. That's down from 70 earlier. And Sergio and Akshay Bhatia, 65. Jason Day, Patrick Reed, 75. I'm surprised that Wyndham Clark is such a long shot at 80-1, and my guy Tony Finau there as well. But Monday's often the best day to get in on your Masters bets because we will see some of the lines get lower, much like we saw Shane Lowry go from 40 to 32 early on. But I would get over to Coolbet, and again, before you make any Masters wagers, opt in, can open in the bonuses, or click on the Mayo link and make sure you're locked in. And for every $10 you bet, you'll get an entry to win that awesome trip to Toronto for the Canadian Open weekend. And by the way, one other thing, make sure to pay attention tomorrow and Wednesday, as we are going to be launching a contest with our partners at Coolbet through our social media channels, where you can win playoff tickets. That's right. Playoffs in the Peg is coming, and you'll be able to throw the whites on and take in some playoff hockey if you're lucky enough to win one of the pairs of tickets for playoff hockey, courtesy of Coolbet. Pay attention to the show tomorrow, as well as our social media channels. And now's a good time to give at Coolbet Canada a follow for more details on all of that. How you feeling, Remo? What do you think about tonight's tilt?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close one. Two of the games here, being a goal different, one goal apart. Interesting trend that the visiting team has won all the games this year with the Jets and Blues meeting, but I think we've seen the Jets bounce back. I think we've seen them get up for big divisional games, and this is a big one. You got to keep pace with the Stars, and the Blues are playing pretty well. I did find it, interesting that Hofer is starting, but hey, you know what? They got to be ready for playoffs, and they have confidence in him. We've talked about the hometown narrative as well. But it should be a great tilt, and I am looking forward to the Amazon broadcast. It was great to have Thomas Hickey on. People were asking in chat us if you're going to be making an appearance behind Adnan Burke, as they have the desk set up downstairs, and you were downstairs the last time Amazon was in town.
I did that last time because I happened to be sitting in the P1s for that game, where I don't normally sit. I think tonight, I don't want to change anything. The record in 316 is too damn good not to be there for this big one tonight. So I don't think you'll see me scrum lurking behind our buddy Adnan tonight.
I should find that picture.
I guarantee you'll see Mike Wynn, Carter Chen, I'm sure will be in a picture or two tonight. So, and if you are downstairs in that, what is it called? The Scotiabank Club, whatever that lower pole. But by the way, I've just done a beautiful job. If you do have club seats or P1 seats, great spot to be before the game. But that's where they'll be setting up. And yes, you can get a little bit of FaceTime on the Prime broadcast if you head down there early before Adnan and the crew get going.
I got to find that picture. I have it somewhere, but that was pretty funny. I do enjoy, when you turn on, they have like the warm up in the arena like an hour before the game, and they just have arena shots. And then, they have, I like how they have the desk down there. It'll be John Forsland, he's on the call, Shane Knighty, and Thomas Hickey, who we had on a guest. And that was great to talk with him about being in the building yesterday. As a fan, he's normally on the broadcast team. I was trying to figure out the logistics of him being at that afternoon Capitals game, then coming to Winnipeg for this game, but talking about that and defending against Ovechkin because he played for the Islanders for many years, and they would have had many, many meetings. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, listen, Hickey was a great get by you and a perfect time. I mean, I didn't know that he was at the game, but I just knew that, everyone in hockey had been following this. And you realize he played his entire career in the league, 450 odd games with the Islanders. I don't know how many of those would have been against the Caps, but he'd be a guy that would know as much as anyone what it's like to go up against Ovi. So very, very good timing on all of that. All right, we got to get this pod up because it's an early game today. So we will bid you all adieu. Thanks for hanging out with us. Fun show today. Big weekend and big one tonight. Tomorrow on the program, the return of Rennie. Rennie will be on the show. He's back from OV Beat, back to the Winnipeg Jets. Thank God we've missed him on Sportsnet. But we'll have Rennie on the show. We'll have full reaction to tonight's game. And then it's time to count down to Thursday night for the Jets and the Dallas Stars in a game that we've had circled on the calendar for weeks. Enjoy yourselves tonight, everybody. Should be a great game. Thanks again to Thomas Hickey, Mike McIntyre, and Alex Ferrario for jumping on the show today. Tomorrow we'll have details on the playoffs and the PEG contest with Coolbet, so you'll want to be tuning in for details on all of that. And, of course, for all the takeaways, hopefully the vibes will be good after a big win tonight. But tall task with the St. Louis Blues coming in on a 12-game heater. Thanks again to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Greatly appreciate your support. And that's going to do it for us, folks. Enjoy this one tonight. It's a big one. We'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. live on YouTube right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.